across the line. Look at defense from Krasowski, immediately covering off Olivier, but Olivier chucks it down into hell corner, and it looks like he's got a better exit too. They're now going to drag race up to Griffin's Bend.
Yes, they are. Here they're going to be in that straight drag race, and that's going to be Genet trying to hold on behind in that Lamborghini to see if there's anything to be had. Absolutely nothing there between the two of Krasowski and Olivier.
Krasowski's going to have the inside, but he doesn't break quite as deep. That outside is hard to hold on to, and that is why Olivier, a spin though, up at the front. Everybody tries to scatter to the inside. Krasowski falling all the way to the back. Will he get hit? No. Absolutely sends it into Sunset Bends, and cutting back underneath. We're going to go 3 wide onto the main straight and almost cutting across. Newhook nearly gets hooked himself, and thankfully has just enough space to go by Danny Cervantes. Cervantes using that slipstream to catch back up and see if he can keep Kings behind him. Kings has the desired inside line, and once again, an over-under potentially no. Ryan Kings now into P3. Another attack from Reynolds, attempted into the inner loop, again, does not stick.
He peeks his nose to the inside through the carousel one more time. They've got a lapped car up ahead of him. When are they going to catch it? Can Reynolds capitalize as he now peeks to the outside? And they're side by side.
If he can keep here, he'll have the inside down into the toe of the boot, and he does. He's got the overlap. This could be job done if he can manage to get in front and a little too deep into the corner. Schutt has to give it up, tries to square it off, looks for maybe a better exit, and I think he's got it. The lapped car helps him. He's going to try and fight back. Reynolds now gives him a taste of his own medicine as he covers the inside, breaking deep down into the heel of the boot. They carry on side by side. Has he got the inside into turn 9? I think he might. He could have this one back. This will be an incredible fight back here from the 31, and he's got it. It's closer than he's been before, and it's a white flag lap now. Does he try and get it here? Does he wait till later? This seems like a good opportunity for me. And indeed, he's once again going to be on the inside for De La Rosa, but this will be the outside into Curva Grande. Will we see Laus Stolzen start to come back forward on him?
They got
Don't
traffic.
forget about Iamaki as well. And they're going to have to stay on the side. Oh, no, they come together. They come together, and that's going to send Olsen into a horrible tumble while Iamaki carries on with the lead.
The World Center of Racing. It's a place where legacies are made, where last names like Earnhardt, Petty, and Yarborough are once remembered for their dominance on the high banks of Daytona. Tonight, we will see which drivers can add their names to the history books and those who have conquered this track in the history of Sim Racers for Mental Health with its 2022 edition of the Daytona 500 live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth for tonight's action is the one, the only Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Now, tonight's action takes us to a place where you can watch a race, go to a movie, visit your hotel room, and then eat a bowl of ice cream, all within about 10 minutes of walking distance from each other, Daytona Beach, Florida. Let's learn more about this track with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. This track began life after Bill France Sr. realized the Daytona Beach road course had outgrown itself. With ambitious plans and the blessing of the city officials, he built what would become the very first super speedway in NASCAR history. At 2.5 miles and with 31 degrees of banking, stock cars easily reach speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Pretty much every car can take the course flat out. This makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. With it being home to one of the world's most famous races, the Daytona 500, fans from around the globe flock to this landmark circuit. Just like the cars on it, the Daytona International Speedway shows no signs of slowing down.
That was a look at our GSRC track guide for Daytona. Now, Samuel, tonight will be very interesting because this week, for many drivers, it's been their first time running with the NASCAR Next Gen car, which is the new era of stock car racing at the NASCAR level for its Cup Series. What are your thoughts on what drivers may face tonight here at the World Center of Racing in turn?
Well, it is going to be interesting, Justin. I'm not really sure. Just like people in real life aren't really sure what we're going to see in Sunday's Daytona 500. Anyone who's familiar with NASCAR or oval racing knows this track, knows how it works. We have big packs of cars, 31 degrees of banking, 2.5 miles. This is a Daytona 500 here on iRacing. You are about to witness 200 laps of racing action, so our voices will get very tired here in the GSRC booth, but we'll bring it all to you anyway. And it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold, because we have gotten 23 cars here so far, so that's a decent field. And I don't know if we're going to have one massive pack or if we're going to see something similar to what was happening in the real life Daytona duels last night, where cars who lost the draft are really, as soon as they got half a second back, that they were on their own, and they lost the pack, they lost the momentum and went a lap down rather quickly. What kind of race are we going to see? We're going to find out.
Let's talk about the race details meanwhile for tonight, because with this event, it is a full distance 500-mile race, 200 laps in turn with the NASCAR Next Gen Cup cars. It is a fixed setup race meanwhile, though, and there is one fast repair available of note. Unlimited tire sets are available if drivers so desire, and it's a very strict incident limit, Samuel. 15 incident points, you hit your penalty mark. You reach 19, you're done for the night. As in our words, you get involved in a few crashes, hit the wall a couple times, maybe bump some drivers too hard, you're done.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if that plays into effect. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we have a clean race and these drivers are able to click off the first 180 laps rather quickly. And I'm sure the last 20, whenever we come here to Daytona, it is always its own race in a little way. In its own way. But yeah, that incident cap is very interesting when you consider the fact that they do have one free repair, because one free repair always worries me a little bit on iRacing. I think people take too many liberties when they see that they can get away with one crash. But when you say, hey, you've got to do 500 miles of racing and you can only knock a wall down a few times, well, that's going to keep everyone on their toes. Maybe we will see a clean race.
As these drivers continue to work about, we'd like to remind you of one of the partners for GSRC in Major's Garage. Be sure to check them out. at the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups, and get help with any of the garage coaches and from them in turn 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking the link in the description below. As well, remember you can use the special discount code MajorsGSRC to get 10% off. Once again, MajorsGSRC, all one word, to get 10% off. Drivers are in the midst of the final moments of practice before 5 minutes solo qualifying. 2 laps would be up on the board in that mark. Drivers have been informed as well just now that they will have the yellow line rule similar to that of how iRacing handles that, meaning it is in effect essentially for the pit exit, but it's going to be intriguing how it's interpreted for the racing action in turn. Track conditions as well, Samuel, are blisteringly hot. How about 113 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temp, 78 degrees Fahrenheit the air temp at a default wind speed of 2 miles per hour to the north. All this on iRacing Day, May 15, 2022, here for an event that's being held at about 4 p.m. in sim time, Samuel.
Yeah, that is quite a hot track temperature. Like you say, we don't really do NASCAR races in the middle of the day, in the middle of May in real life. By the way, this isn't a glitch. Some of you may have seen these 3 white monster cars running out there together, thinking, "Oh, is that a paint? Are the paints not loading? Do we have 3 white cars?" No, they are all team cars out there working together. So that obviously may play a role during today's race as well. This is practice that's wrapping up right here now, though. They're about to start qualifying and drivers practicing pit entry. Obviously, that normally plays a big role in these super speedway races, but it's time to qualify.
Drivers have wrapped up the practice. The fastest driver in the session was Jason Chilton with the help of the practice in terms of the pack for the 46.975. But now it's about solo car pace to determine how the starting positions will fare out. 23 drivers are currently in the garage area prepping their cars to start qualifying. The first of them being this driver in Hunter Gio Gagnon, who is in the number 4 Toyota Camry, off and away to start off his qualifying.
Yeah, and obviously iRacing will enforce that these drivers stay on the apron all the way through turn 2. It's not going to be like what we've seen them do in the real world this week, where they've been going straight up onto the racetrack before turn 1. There you go. As soon as you go by that blue cone, you can edge out onto the straight. Like it used to be in the real world, these drivers do get 2 qualifying laps here at the speedway. So instantly, what they're all going to do is go up there high towards the wall, try and make a track as large as possible. Although, as I say that, the number 4 comes downstairs. But the reason you really want to do that is to get as much track as possible to build up your speed.
Here's the thing, Samuel, and I think the reason why we're seeing the 4 try and use the bottom lap 1, some drivers did make note they felt their first lap was quicker than their second lap based on what they were feeling in the practices and testing, in trying the car in open races, official races, and fixed in general. Coke, it was widely considered 1 lap to start things off was the best lap in qualifying for some reason this time compared to Gen 6.
Well, these drivers have spent more time in these cars than I have, so I'll take their word for it. I honestly, until I was watching TV this week, I kind of missed the memo that the cars had 5 gears. Obviously, they never used 5th gear at the LA Coliseum. I don't think I ever used 3rd gear, so I didn't get the memo there. Here we go. So Hunter has gone straight to the bottom. He's going to try and make his money lap on lap 1. And remember, these are all fixed setups, but you will still see some drivers do a better job than others.
One of the drivers I think you have to keep an eye on tonight as more times come in will be this one. This is David Grantham, who made his name known during some of the E-Racers Roval action a few months ago, during the summertime in particular, runs plenty of special events, and someone that's always known for having his dog on the car. And yes, that is the amazing diabetic alert dog, Chuck, that is on board on that machine with the hashtag Dogs with Jobs. Always has that dog on every paint scheme he has, and that backing for that number 6.
Yeah, we've got a few interesting paint schemes out here. I have a soft spot for the number 7 of Glenn Fagan. He has got what appears to be Rusty Wallace's old Miller Lite paint scheme, so I'm kind of partial towards that one. Rusty was a driver I cheered for when I moved to America, and then he retired the year after I moved to America. I guess he didn't like me watching him. David Grantham using the apron to try and gain a couple extra hundredths of a second. It pays off for him to the top of the sheets.
And the interesting mark is still second. Both laps were on the bottom. It was a couple 100s quicker for the number 4. He's still second with a 55.33. Plenty of drivers still in qualifying with about 1 minute and 30 seconds under that mark to work with. Here is Chilton, as we mentioned, top of the board in practice. And looking also throw back to the days of maybe Darrell Waltrip and those types of drivers. I believe Terry Labonte at one point drove with this paint scheme too in the 1980s.
Only about half of our field, it looks like, are electing to turn laps in qualifying. And honestly, with a 23-car field, I don't blame half of a field for not turning laps. The worst you're going to start is 23rd. Right now, the driver in that position is Wayne Bridges. And 500 miles to get by 22 cars, that's doable.
And that's not a surprise, though, to not see too many drivers want to say, I want to be at the middle of the pack to start the race. You don't know what's going to happen to the middle of the pack to start the race, and some just like to be at the back to start.
I've only ever done a Daytona 500 one time on iRacing, and I think I started from the pits, went a lap down rather quickly because, of course, after I started from the pits, it stayed green forever. But then we had like 1 caution in the first 100 laps and 6 cautions in the last 100. I easily got that lap back and finished 6th. So don't be surprised if you see something similar here where the second half of a race picks up a little bit in intensity.
There's the same method that's been said about when it came to the response to some of the duels as well for drivers with the next-gen cars in the rear world. To finish first, you first have to finish. Let's see how they will start for today's action, and David Grantham, with lots of hype with his number 6 machine, will start on the pole tonight, with Thomas Stewart alongside the differential about a couple 100ths of a second. Then Hunter Jogagan will start in 3rd, with Chris Gow in 4th, about nearly half a second back. Then Sean Stevens, Jason Chilton in the top 6. Hayden Wheeler starts in 7th, runs a fair bit of super speedway action. Then it's Barry Kramer in 8th. Thomas Fritsch starts in 9th, and Glenn Fagan rounds out the top 10.
Top 10 cars all covered by 0.2 of a second. Half a second back here is Evan Lambert. He was the slowest of the cars that qualified. And now everyone from 12th on back did not turn a lap in qualifying. I'm assuming that they get set by iRating. So Scott Ricard takes 12th on the grid ahead of Philip Bresch, Eric Jeffrey, Curtis Yancey, Tony Brent, William Kruska, Drew Bernardi, David Baldassar, Connor McGinn, and on page number 3 we have Christopher Standridge, John Bennett, and Wayne Bridges rounding out our 23-car field.
As I look top to bottom at the running order for tonight, some of the drivers are returning members for SimRace for Mental Health special event races they hold throughout the year. Remember, this group does hold these types of events monthly, and this is one of their main staple events at the 500-mile event here at Daytona. But as these drivers roll, it becomes the major question, first things first, your keys to victory for tonight, knowing you've got a long way to work for tonight.
Yeah, well, first things first, I'm going to say all the words inside my head. I think, like I say, you've got to keep it clean. You've got to be there at the end, even if you go a lap down. I know you don't want to lose a draft. No one likes being a lap down. No one likes getting a wave around or a lucky dog. But you're not out of a race. I wouldn't even if you're a lap down with 30, 40 laps to go. Enough can happen here. The other thing is, and this goes along the same thing. Save your spare car. We saw these guys race the trucks here at Daytona last week. I forget which driver it was. His name escapes me right now, and I apologize. But we had one driver who got caught in a wreck on lap 1, ran around 6 laps down. Well, maybe not 6 laps down, but a few laps down in the beat-up truck all race long. Gradually kept getting the lucky dogs, and in the closing laps, he took his free repair, and he ended up finishing second. So, you know, you have a free repair. Doesn't mean you have to use it right away.
Sean Stevens won that race. For reference, it was Aaron Riolo who finished just 76/100ths of a second back at the end of that one last week. But now, in the name of Sim Racers for Mental Health, the drivers are all set to run 500 miles. This is Daytona, and this is the green flag. The green flag is out. We're underway for the World Center of Racing.
Not a great start by the high line, but we'll see if they're able to gather momentum. They're all getting bumper to bumper there. The first, well, pretty much everyone on the tall side there is bumper to bumper, but the top 4 cars on the inside line breaking away a little bit.
That's actually shocking because the trend throughout the week, Samuel, has been if you start on the top, usually the top is the better line, but not the greatest start for the 64. Most of the top line, in fact, drying up. Most of the field going to the bottom, contrary to much of the action this week.
Yeah, well, we'll see if those cars that are still up high do start to get a bit of a run going. Obviously, now the problem is if they do, a couple of cars can easily pop out ahead of them. You see them already swerving, some drivers trying to get clean air into their grille. Obviously, putting more tape on the grille. I don't really think that's a thing you do with these cars anymore.
Nope.
And yeah, and even if you could, it's a fixed setup race anyway. So everyone's going to be running the same similar temperatures as everybody else.
And keep in mind when it comes to that, that means drivers can tandem draft much longer compared to before. You still have to manage the temperatures, yes. But with the way the aero ducts are built for this next-gen car, you can't simply say, let's tape over the entire radiator panel, as some may have done with Gen 6, and open up. You have to keep that open in turn. Top line starting to open up some opportunities. Meanwhile, the first on the top, that's Scott Ricard, but no one's been able to get momentum going. In fact, the top line doesn't have enough numbers to get the energy going to pick up the tempo up there.
Yeah, no, a lot of people who started on that top line have dropped from positions. The car that started second is down to 9th. The car that started 4th is down to 17th. The car that started 6th is down to 13th. So things did not work out too well for the drivers that started up high. But again, doesn't really matter too much right now. It's lap 3 of 200.
One of the drivers dropping back is William Kruska. Big part of Sim Racers Mental Health in the organization events such as this. He is one of the few stuck on the top currently, and not many friends seem to want to give him space, and that's the intriguing part, is finding that give and take, finding someone willing to work with you, and it seems Kruska doesn't have anyone willing to give him space in the battle going on for 16th.
See 2 cars at the very back of the field that have lost the lead draft, the teammates of Wayne Bridges and John Burnett. The good news is they've still got each other, so they'll be able to go, they won't be able to go as fast as that main pack, that 21 car train, but they're not going to go down the lap in a hurry.
That's actually intriguing because you mentioned the real world factor with how these drivers may be at the end of the draft. These were the final 2 drivers in the draft before they lost the touch of it. And there you are in the 5th gear, around 180 miles per hour. The drivers in the draft are sticking around 188 up to nearly 190 at the end of the straightaways for reference. That effect you're talking about with the drag, Samuel, actually coming in very quickly.
Yeah, and they are losing about 2 seconds a lap. If I were them, I would actually get to tandem in a little bit. Obviously, probably not in the turns, but try it out down the straights. If a car behind does start overheating, your teammates just switch around and see if that can help gain you a second or so.
And that's a change, mind you, in terms of what drivers have had to feel on the service and have been feeling with the Gen 6 for years. Back in around 2015 to 2017-ish, I'm thinking of, that That used to be a commonplace. You're at the back of the pack in a fixed race, you lose the back of the grouping if you don't have draft behind you. It's almost going back to those days with that drag level compared to the more closer packed action for a couple years and the single file choo-choo train with the side drafting for last year.
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons we're definitely seeing the train here right now is just the knowledge that this is going to be a long race. Uh-oh, we got another victim here. Oh no, he's still with him. He's still with him.
He's actually got one of the fastest speeds on the track right now, 191 entering the corner for Tony Brent. And if he lost a little bit more ground, that might have put him at risk for losing the draft fully. Bit of a loose moment in front of them for the checkup. Kruzka apologizing on the radio, nearly got to the back end of the 88 for 14th.
Yeah, and all this has kicked Barry Kramer out. They were all moving around about 6th, 7th, 8th place. Barry Kramer is that light blue car, the number 11 up on the high line. He is losing position after position. Now, he might drop all the way to the back of his pack. What he's got to be careful of is that he maintains... Oh, no, he's going to get a bit of help up there. But he wants to make sure he has enough momentum that if he did drop all the way to the back, he would still be able to hold on. But doesn't look like it's going to be an issue. He looks like he got a couple people to help him.
So for reference, Bridges and Bennett have now dropped back about 8 seconds as a result of them losing the draft in the first couple laps. Main pack still 21 cars long at the moment. And it almost is starting to go quickly, Samuel, in turn towards the let's be patient type of mindset. No major moves for the race lead. In fact, they're letting Grantham lead the pack currently. He will burn up more fuel, Samuel, with that. Despite the bigger tank, the fuel range is similar to that of the Gen 6, about 38 to 42 laps expected.
Yeah, so we're about quarter of a way through the run here now. However, I do anticipate we might see a caution just from the trekking ups we get. When you have a massive 21-car train like this, it's very easy for the accordion effect to come into play. We've already seen it happen a couple of times. And, you know, it doesn't have to be a mistake on anyone's part, and no ill intention or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see one of those accordions lead to a little bit of contact, a car getting sideways. That could bring out an early caution here. It's just when you have these long trains like this at these speeds, you can get pretty bad accordions.
Take a look at William Kruzka. Speed's kicking up to as high as 194 miles per hour, and he's doing one of the things most drivers are not willing to do. When there's the checkup, he's trying to side draft, pull the drivers back. That slows them down, Samuel, and he's leapfrogging. While many try in the real world to do it from the bottom, side draft the driver up top, and then make the move back to the top once there's a hole now, for William, he's making it work where he's making the moves to the outside, pulling drivers back on the inside, and opening the hole to get back to the yellow line.
Yeah, you know, and we saw that work. There's a risk that it might not work. You know, next time he attempts it, he could get stuck up on the high side with no help and go back a few positions. But you know what? He's learning out here. If he does fail and drop to the back of his pack, oh well, he's going to lose 10 positions. He's got 190 laps to make it up. If you are going to experiment and try something like this is the right time to be doing it.
Especially with 190 laps to go still on the board. Grantham still in the race lead, mind you. Keep in mind, you see there, some drivers do want to go. Kramer wants, or rather, one of the blue cars, that is Drew Bernardi, I should say, the 86 route, trying to make things go. But you can see right there, even though they're leaving that car lane space to try and avoid the side draft, it just isn't working. In fact, he just pulled himself back, trying to cut in front of the 83.
Yeah, it's one of those, we complain about watching people race single file at Daytona when we're watching it on TV, but this is perfect proof that when we put anyone else in the same situation, they're probably going to do the same thing. You know, it's you can complain about it, but you do it because it works. It's a sensible thing to do. These drivers at the very back, though, are impatient, are maybe a little impatient, maybe want to experiment, or maybe they're thinking, hey, we got a lot of people watching us on GSRC who who want to watch cars run side by side, so they're giving us a little bit of excitement back here. And so far, keeping it clean and probably learning a thing or two as well.
Well, part of the thing to mention too is, for those who watch the NASCAR competition, it was very hard to make your way from the back to the front. If you qualified well, you were likely to stay up at the front as long as you didn't get involved in one of several big ones or make a mistake in the pit lane. Shockingly enough, there was no speeding penalties during the NASCAR competition on Tuesday. But the main thing to consider on that, Mark, is if drivers know that, for example, they know that if they aren't up there for that final sprint towards the finish or that final fuel run, they might need to find a way in quickly to be able to get that position before that mark.
Yeah, and these laps are clicking off quickly. We're on lap 13. We are right about at the 10-minute mark into this race. So nice momentum going here. And obviously, the longer we go without an incident, the less the 19 incident limit is going to be a concern during this race. And that's always good news. We don't want to see anyone get disqualified. This number 16 car, he's definitely been up there a few times today.
Now, once again, side by side, but you see right there, you see how close they are a little bit right there. That's pulling them back a little bit. It holds them up a touch bit. Although, the 88 does have a bit of draft to be able to counter that. Kruzka doesn't have anyone to work with in front. It quickly ducks back on down. In fact, Kruzka losing all the spots he had picked up from his past couple attempts. Although, he does have more numbers behind him.
Well, they're about to be joined by Hayden Wheeler. Hayden Wheeler was running in a solid 4th place, has got shuffled out of line. That's a single car running on his own up there, and he's dropping back, only going 180 miles an hour through the turn. This outside pack catching him, and they are going to push him along. I was wanted to make sure that didn't get any worse. But now look at this. All of a sudden, we're starting to get a good outside line forming.
They're starting to get the numbers they need, Samuel, to make the line work, and it's starting to show. With that speed right there, some drivers still trying to be careful, I notice, with the wall. That is something where that's also going to be something to almost unprogram yourself to. Most of the field is so used to running to the bottom of the track because of it being the quickest way around, in the corners in particular. With the updates to the aero package on the super speedways, you can make both lines work if you've got the numbers and help.
What I love about this is the driver leading that outside line is the number 64 of Thomas Stewart, who I almost said Tony Stewart, who started. Yeah, he started second and dropped back early on, and I was saying, no, maybe he'll come back up there and lead the high line again. He is. It just took him 16 laps. Mind you, they've kind of stalled out about 7th place. They haven't really made it back up front yet, have they?
Yeah, because they lost all the help they had for 3 or 4 cars who side drafted themselves off the inside line. That's going to be the tough thing. If one of the drivers from the inside line starts to bobble off that yellow line and pulls them back, that breaks up all their momentum and kinetic energy and speed.
This pack is almost about half a lap ahead of the 2 cars that we lost earlier on. So at this rate, it would be about lap 40 that that pairing would go a lap down. But again, one thing that's really going to mix this race up, if we get to it, is green flag pit stops. I anticipate at least a couple of cars making mistakes during the pits. And that could definitely give us a different feel to this race after that happens. But again, that's still a little ways away. These cars can go about 20 more laps on fuel.
Of note, the tandem draft is starting to pick up on that outside group. You're looking at the race leaders. They are still keeping within about a half a car length distance to each other. Compare that to the tandeming. They're trying to bump draft in the corners. And that is something that was tried in NASCAR and worked to some degree. And nearly turned Ryan Blaney around at least once or twice when he got bumped into the corner by Brad Keselowski. Very dangerous to not get the bump right, Samuel, in any type of generation of stock car here.
And meanwhile, Drew Bernardi is shouting, hey, I'll give someone a cookie if you drag the brakes a little bit. Come back here and help me, guys. Guys, don't leave me. Don't leave me.
No one's able to give him a cookie. Yet.
He's a Cookie Monster color. I think that's why I came up. Go ahead, Justin.
I mean, I've got nothing because he was at the back of the group. He just lost the group, and he's running in, I think, 4th gear, or at least higher revs. That might have been his issue. He's not been able to pick it up. Keep in mind, when groupings of lengths this are here, Samuel, that's been a thought process to the majors. Daytona 500 comes to mind, where drivers mention if they picked up damage, let's say, they did say, oh, it was better run in 4th gear because they felt faster with it.
Now, I hope he knows that the car has a 5th gear. I think there was a problem when oh boy, a couple of desperate moves to the outside there. I think that was a problem when I started racing the Spec Racer Ford on iRacing. You don't realize how many gears that slow car has.
And it's also experimentation of when you can use that 5th gear, right? Because for some, they may think, oh, that extra gear may be like the IndyCar 6th gear, or the top gear for IndyCar, I should say, in general, on oval. It's not like that.
Fastest lap of a race for Barry Kramer, driving the number 11 car.
Yeah, it's been impressive, I will say, for Kramer amongst those who's been trying different lines, inside, outside, every line. It just seems like ever since he went to the outside, got shuffled about early, he's been stuck at the back end of the pack, and that's where he's getting these fast laps from the gigantic runs with the gaps. As a bit of a bobble, the 64 nearly to the wall. The whole outside line losing momentum. That may split the pack up here.
Yeah, that would definitely not be good at all. Yeah, it was actually interesting watching NASCAR Cup Series practice earlier today, and Bubba Wallace said he knew he had a good car, but there was one lap he could tell he had a good run on the pack of cars in front, so he just held it wide open to try and get a good lap time in, so he had bragging rights. So it's nice to know that it's not just on iRacing that these bragging right theories come into effect. Oh, it doesn't really matter that you get the fastest lap, but people still want it.
Remember the need for Bernardi to find someone to give him a cookie? Well, Resch and McGinn also need to find some cookies. They have lost the draft as well by 3 seconds now, and they're fighting for position, mind you. That is a swap, and they were also at the tail end of the draft. Together, mind you, before they lost the tail end. A second a lap slower, the past couple.
Again, I would not be surprised if we see a Daytona 500 on Sunday where there's packs of 4 and 5 cars just around the whole racetrack. It might... There's part of me that hopes it doesn't come down that to the end of a race, but I wouldn't be surprised if a big portion of the middle of a race we see that at some point.
What's the saying? I want to go back and see the racing of the olden days and have it go back to that way. What was the racing like in 1959? Smaller groupings. 1970s, smaller groupings. Parts of the 1990s, smaller groupings. And that was... a lot's changed, let's put it that way, since then, but still, the drag levels have definitely made things intriguing, seeing how these cars have reacted since they hit the circuit of the real world, and how the eNASCAR counterparts are fairly much replicating that for the most part, as a big check on the top line with some of the blocks.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, though. I think, oh, boy, a lot of people wanted to get downstairs there. Half a field just filtered to the low line, and now there's only about 5 cars up high. It's just going to be different. You know, it might not necessarily be the pack or even the train that we're used to seeing. I wouldn't be surprised if this race stays green if we see very small packs of cars out here in about 40 laps time.
And for those wondering, why is there this 1 car length gap between the top and the bottom lines? Well, Samuel, that was a trend that did pop up in Coke where, especially if you tried to run the middle line, make it 3 wide, drivers got side drafted on both sides, and it really emphasized the term the sucker hole. You can make the side draft work as a pack on the middle line if you have no third line, but you have to be precisely perfect with it to make sure you aren't pulled back.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of driving in the middle. Mind you, I'm normally one who commits to the yellow line all race long. The problem is I never know, you know, on the final lap at some point you've got to go up high and try and make a move. And that's why I guess I've only ever won one race at Daytona on iRacing, and a bunch of races I've tried. Meanwhile, we're working lap number 25 now, so when we cross the line this time by, we will be at an 8th race distance. So we're starting to make progress in this race, and I'm enjoying what we're seeing so far. Nice clean racing. Might not be the most exciting racing up front, but it's early stages, and it's nice to see how these guys are working together and what they're learning, and I hope there's not some bumping going on in the turns there, because that would end very ugly indeed. 1/8 of a way there.
Kruska's run dies off on the top line as a side draft from the outside from Fagan to try and help out the 16. However, he's now getting side drafted by Chris Gow. I found that run intriguing though. Kruska started towards the very back, Samuel, is now within the top 8, as high as 5th with that last run. So he is gaining ground with these decisions, but it's not as simple as let's go from last to first in 3 laps. It will take time to do so, it seems, this time.
And we've lost Barry Kramer.
He's now lost the draft too. Yes, we're down to 17 in the main pack. He's only running 172 miles per hour. Tony Brent, Eric Jeffrey are at a big risk of doing the same thing with their side-by-side a bit.
What I like, and I've always wondered about doing this, what I like about what Barry Kramer's doing here is he knows he's lost the lead pack. 172 miles an hour, he can go a lot faster than that. He is intentionally driving slow, and I think he's doing it so that the tandeming cars behind him can catch up with him, and he can start working with them and saving fuel with them.
Would be a smart call. Bernardi is having that same opportunity, mind you, in the 21st on back grouping, as we still keep an eye on Kruska, who is the Pied Piper on the outside line. And his helping partners have constantly changed as he's continued to find his way towards the front. Seven's now helping. Evan Lambert has helped at times. Hayden Wheeler's been willing to push at times. Some of the drivers on the outside group, as a few drivers missed the bottom off the tri-oval. There was Stambridge along with David Baudazir, who ended up pushing up the track a bit there.
And as we approach the first round of pit stops in about 10 laps time, let's take a time to acknowledge the fact that all 23 of our starters are still on the lead lap, so no one's out of this yet. And as I say that, there's a lot of jostling on the back straight, so I was waiting to see a car get turned. But, you know, again, if you go a lap down, or even 2 laps down, I don't think it's the end of the world yet.
Keep in mind, not just the risk of potential pit stops, but the different braking, larger brakes. It was described by some, you could go deeper, or you can have drivers get spin right there. Caution is out. Fagan gets turned around in the tri-oval. 4 or 5 others get collected for the first caution of the day.
All right, Glenn Fagan in that number 7 Miller Lite machine is really the one who got the worst of that. If I was anyone else but Fagan, I would not take my free repair. I would try and repair your car the old-fashioned way this early on. Fagan might be able to try and do that too. He'll have to spend a lot of time, but I think he tries to come down low here, and he wasn't clear.
Yep, tried to find the hole, not enough time to get down there with the timing. And he ends up collecting the 88, the 54, the 64, the 50, also getting involved in a massive skid and slide by Tony Brent, who may have just avoided damage in that, in the 53.
There are 7 cars who are quite thankful that that happened.
Take a listen in. This is Tony Brent, who goes for a wild ride to avoid this one.
This is why I always like riding the low line at these super speedway races. It gives you escape paths. I've never really liked the idea of running up high in the pack, because if a wreck breaks out, I don't have an escape path. I have a wall, and Tony Brent made a good use of the runoff area there.
The downside, correct me if I'm wrong, that's still a 1x because he technically cut into the grass for the infield. If you touch the grass, that is a 1x, mind
Were
you.
you just watching Evan Lambert there?
No, I think we may have a reason, though, because I heard some crunching, Sam.
No, I don't think he hit the car in front of him, but he got very close there through turns 3 and 4. Anyway, we got pit stops coming up here. And I have a feeling we'll see a lot of 4 tires. I was very surprised to see that there's like a 4-second difference between 4 tires and 2 tires. I thought due to how quick... I think once they perfect these 4-tire pit stops, once NASCAR teams have got the hang of these 4-tire pit stops, I think 2-tire pit stops will become a thing of the past, because I think you'll be waiting so long on fuel.
Off and away they go. Grantham wins the race off the lane. Joe Hagan comes off next. Yancey, Stevens, Botazar, who ends up rounding up the top 5 in the race. Of note, Kruzka might get a penalty. Maybe he's cradling the yellow line in a race off the line. He was right on top of the line against Evan Lambert.
And what kind of penalty would that be?
End of longest line if you end up crossing for an unsafe pit exit, and we'll see if that ends up being a call for him. Can confirm that is not, but Wayne Bridges is dealing with some troubles because he's struggling to find his pit box and just found it and has a potential warning. Everyone else gaining up, no other penalties to deal with, and in turn, 5 drivers taking lengthy pit stop windows.
Yeah, and this is what I expected. Glenn Fagan has taken his free repair. I don't know if anyone else did. Hopefully not. I think Fagan was the only one who really got it, a bad piece of that wreck. But we do have several cars down on pit road trying to get their cars fixed up the hard way, and I think that's a smart decision.
Especially since there is a long way to go. This is just the first of many pit stops in the day. And to mention what you were mentioning when it came to the tires, it's been talked about by some on social media, in particular some of the more technical reporters that are amongst the NASCAR garage and reporting on the next-gen car. It's been talked about we may see pit stops for tire change as quick as 8 seconds once teams can get a hang of that one lug nut compared to the previous 5.
Yeah, so, and that's about the time it takes a Cup car to do a full tank of fuel. So I really think 2-tire pit stops may be a thing of the past in the not too distant future for NASCAR.
Piers Grantham wants to choose the top here, and I think he has been given that right here. So it will be Grantham, Joe Hagan, along with the top 4, including Yancey and Stevens. Then next on behind the bottom line, Botazar, who's still trying to sort things out here. Then it's Wheeler, who is outside row 3. Then behind would be Kruzka and Lambert amongst the top 8. Of note, Scott Ricard has had to pit a second time this caution. He will not make it in time to catch the rest of the pack as a result of his 3.5 second stop. Resch took 1 minute and 10 seconds of damage repair. He's had enough time to catch the pack with the quick yellow. 1 minute and 11 seconds Tony Brent spent in the pit box despite his major slide.
Yeah, I don't know what all that's about. I'm also confused what Grantham's doing here, because, I mean, he started on pole at the start of a race on the inside and won the race into turn 1. By
Remember the top line?
Yeah, yeah. It went nowhere.
Yeah, but in most cases, watch this restart. Green flag is out, timed up well, and watch the top line in turn 1. Stevens has timed this up perfectly, Sam. And there it is right there for Grantham. Because of that push, he gets to go straight to the bottom and control the tempo and keep Stevens up top.
I suppose, backtracking on what I was saying, if you are leading the race and you want to... Oh, there we go. We've got one car dropping to the back on the apron there. if you want to experiment on what line you might want to restart for the final restart of a race, now's a good time to be doing that.
That was Yancey who elected to go to the back here, and that was a little bit dicey. In fact, the back half of the pack, 15th on back on the restart, is losing the draft already.
Yeah, and this second pack needs to get single file quickly. Yeah, that was a very interesting rejoin. If you are watching iRacing or getting into iRacing for the first time, don't do that.
Oh, big checkup in front. Meanwhile, Kruzka had the checkup. Chilton and company nearly wrecked.
Good news for that second pack. A big checkup there in the first pack is just going to reform Pandria.
Some of the drivers still struggling in the 180s and speed to get themselves gathered back up. But Chris Gow may be able to hold on to the draft if only one driver, would get single file behind him.
Yeah, the second half really needs to do a better job of getting single file. But the good news is they're all still together so far, although I say that, you've got a couple little stragglers at the back. But if they can remain one pack, especially if they can become an organised pack, they shouldn't lose too much time. Of course, the driver losing out big right now is Scott Rickard, already half a lap down, all on his own.
That's Phil Bresch, meanwhile, who is now stuck on the top line. Bennett electing to try and pass him instead. That is Thomas Frisch, who took the damage repair, who's also going to try and side draft to be the second to last car in the line. As mentioned, Ricard already half a track behind now. But these drivers already 1.4 seconds back of Eric Jeffrey, who is the 13th and last driver of the main group.
Napa car going on the apron a bit there. Now remember that number 7 Miller Lite car has already used up his free repair, so he might want to be a little bit more careful, because even though yes, nobody wants to wreck, the fact that everyone else around him still has one free repair left, they might be racing a little bit more aggressive than he does, because they have an extra life.
Very curious on how this all plays out in turn. Top line having some good numbers meanwhile. That is Hayden Wheeler again leading that respective grouping. This time Kruzka staying on the bottom boxed in. But a bit of a side draft coming up from Evan Lambert's machine. And that's what they also have to be careful of. Trying to make sure they time up how close each car gets there, otherwise you get pulled back down the street like that.
Oh, very... I'll tell you what, I've seen that a few times from Evan Lambert in that number 9 Napa car.
Oh, that's not pretty. Wheeler tries to dice it through 3 wide. He saves it. Now he spins it back up the track. No caution yet as no one else hits him. Now he loops it back down it.
With Stay Green, I think this league does have admins that can throw a manual caution, but they haven't done that. So Hayden Wheeler, if he's lucky, he'll be able to get out there and draft with Scott Rickard. But of course, the problem now for everyone else is this has really broken up those 2 packs. But amazing job by everyone to avoid Hayden Wheeler there.
No caution. We stay green. Wheeler staying on the apron in 3 and 4 after all that. But again, that was all from Wheeler, who might have not realized he was not clear of Billy Kruzka down to the inside. Wanted to go back to the inside to get back around Lambert.
He almost had it saved, and then he could have just kept in the apron there. Unfortunately, he overcorrected. He's not trying to drive back up on the racetrack like that or wreck anyone. He's just really has lost the control of his car at that point, and eventually it finally spins around on him.
Sometimes you need to know the place of your car. He did not know the place of the 16's car.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was even halfway clear. I mean, that was, yeah, I guess that's a downside. Well, some people do have real-life spotters on iRacing. I'm going to guess he does not.
Funnily enough, no, he does not have an in-person spotter. There's only one in-person spotter on the box tonight, and that's Morgan Mizzou, who's working with the 4, who's a part of a 3-car break as the Ooze start for 4th on back because they are still scrapping for 4th on back.
Yeah, and they really don't need to be doing that. So what happened after that wreck, the top three, well, it wasn't really a wreck, the top three have broken away, and this pack from fourth was all in a nice little train, and then all of a sudden they just started getting side by side. And I was mentioning right before that moment on the back straight happened, I'm seeing some really aggressive moves out of that Trace Elliott liveried car, the number 9 of Evan Lambert. And that was another one where I think he would have been a little bit of a better team player if he just kept drafting the two in front of him, because now this whole pack is going to lose momentum while they're racing like this.
They've already lost 2/10 from the start of your last paragraph to the end of your last paragraph. 3.1 seconds back to the race leader. About 2.9 seconds in turn to Sean Stevens.
And sure enough, what I thought would happen with Hayden Wheeler is happening. He has waited for Scott Rickard to pick him up, and so those two will be able to work together. They'll still probably go a lap down eventually, but they'll have a bit more momentum than what they would have if they were running on their own.
And for those wondering, how did he nearly spin it 4 times before he actually spin it? This is not an easy car to save, Samuel. With the wider tread of the tire, with the different feel of the car, with the less, how do I phrase this, bumpiness feel, or compared to the Gen 6. It's more so of a road build chassis, mind you. It's not an easy car to save when most of the drivers in the NASCAR who were in contender or in Coke experienced the car prior to the most updated package, mind you, experienced the car. All 8 of them spun at least once in a special event in December.
And the other thing is, you're in a race, you know. Oh,
trouble in the grass. Heading off towards the photographers in 3 and 4. That's Wayne Bridges. Running 18th. He got turned by Bernardi in one of the back groupings into turn 3.
We keep going though, but he's going to lose a lot of momentum and have to look for help. I think he might be able to pick up Hayden Wheeler and Scott Rickard. Have they already gone by him, actually?
So Bridges wobbling down to the bottom of the racetrack as a result there to the pit lane. First major lap traffic to deal with, Wheeler and Rickard. Remember Rickard, damage repair under the last caution coming to the 1 to go. Wheeler in the Wheeler Logistics machine. Well, his back bumper says we'll get there, probably. The leaders will get there, definitely soon.
Yeah, obviously the nice thing about this when it comes to lapping the 2 cars in front of them is it's a 3-car pack putting a lap on a 2-car pack, so there shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience for them. It's probably good news for all of the drivers who are kind of running on their own in 2-car tandems out there right now, that we do only have a 3-car pack for the lead, because they're only running 187 miles an hour, which, you know, is a few knots down compared to if they were running in a 21-car pack like they were earlier.
The gap is now about more than 4 seconds. It's worth noting that Lambert, with all that craziness, did get damage to the left rear and to the spoiler. If you look on board from the 7's front end, it is visible. The crunch, the back bumper right there. Look to the left center around the Camaro, where the Camaro is all crunched in.
Apologies. The number 91 of Wayne Bridges has gotten back out on track, but he's on his own, so he's about to go 2 laps down. And this is the second pack from 4th on back we're watching still. But last lap around, I don't think they're running the pace of the top 3, even though they've got a nice train going on. Maybe that damage that you noticed just in is actually hurting the speed of this pack. Maybe they need someone else to lead them around.
They did gain a 10th last time. However, on the average the past 5, they've lost 3/10 on that mark. So it's not a consistent gain, so to speak. In fact, down the backstretch, they've lost another 10th alone. So, and this is all with the race leaders catching up more traffic from the lap cars to work with. In fact, Wayne Bridges is parked in front of the leader's nose And they've gained some more time in cars because of the 3 lap cars the leaders have. So they are up to 6 in number.
Yeah, so here we go. This is by choice. David Grantham is electing, although as I say that he sticks his nose out. But looks like his top 3 may be content just to ride behind these lap cars.
Or were.
No. Yeah, that didn't last very long, did it?
Funnily enough, when they rode on behind, they gained time. Here's the thing, Lambert's just been shuffled onto the second pack as well at the same time. Everyone is passing the 9. The leaders are trying to go side by side with the lap cars. And everyone is bleeding time.
Look at Thomas Free. She's going... Oh, and that was a smart decision there. He realized he was going a lot slower than the pack. He's going to have... why is he still on the apron? He needs to get back up there, get their draft.
That was very dicey, let's put it that way with that plan. Ricard backs off, and now they get into a rhythm. The top 3 run the wall. And with all that craziness, they're now losing time again as they run the wall compared to before, down in the corner compared to before. Everyone else is picking up lots of time and then some. The 7 is leading pack 2 now, and they are coming.
Maybe. They're not working together. Look, they're still trying to race each other, about 5th in line. That's not what they need to be doing.
They gained a 10.5 to 2/10 before that decision by those 2 Monster Energy logoed cars. And now with the lap traffic, they're all forced to duck back in. When they stay like this, it has worked. With this 7 car is the key word. Look at that time the past couple laps after they made the swap.
Yeah, but I'm really curious to see what lap time David Grantham runs now that he's leading a pack of 6 cars for the lead. That, well, yeah, this is interesting. By the way, there is a 3rd pack. 12th on back is also racing in a pack like this. But of course, these are the 2 we're keeping an eye on. And, well, here is the pack for 12th. They were racing in the pack like this, single file, and now they've decided to put on a little show for us.
17 seconds back, 48-second lap times with all this shuffling. The leaders are running 47 seconds right now. Kramer led this pack last time by. This time, it's Philip Resch will lead this group in 12th position as Kruzka, with his damages stuck at the top, gets shuffled to the back of the group. And you have to understand, too, drivers love to race and love to battle. Hence why, even though many will say, let's be patient, others will say, I'm here to have fun. Let's go 7 wide the whole track.
Well, we are almost at a quarter distance. David Grantham crosses the line right now and starts lap 50. When he completes lap 50, we will be at a quarter distance. That being said, there could always be some green-white checkers. Obviously, still early in the race, but what it does mean is that we're halfway to lap 100, and well, whenever there's 100 laps to go in a NASCAR race, that's when I start thinking about the end of a race, and oh, a lot of damage to the back of a 54.
Remember, that's Thomas Frisch, who had some significant damage from before. He's elected to come and pit after his manual damage repairs before. That back cover was not there previously when we last saw him, mind you. So it looks like Frisch and his chances are out for now. He's taking the manual repair under green.
Yeah, don't know how much. Well, if he only goes about 3 laps down, I think he might still be okay. Oh, there he is. He's rolling now. Okay. He'll need some cautions, obviously, but I think he'll get them.
18 laps was his last stint, mind you. Remember, the opening run of the race went to 30 laps on the day, as one more driver losing ground still. It's one of the Monster Energy logoed machines. This is Stanbridge, 11th position, who has lost touch to the second pack.
He's got 12 seconds of free air before he ends up being caught by the 3rd pack.
There is a reason, though. Remember lap 50. Because in turns 3 and 4, he had a moment, and this is a very intriguing one to mention, because This was an issue in Coke as well. Because of the way the cars can handle, you can get very light off turn 4 in particular, and gives a whole new meaning to Calamity Corner, in that you get light on those back tires, you end up spinning to the inside, and for Stambridge, he ended up spinning to the inside, which cost him the draft.
Why does no road course actually have a turn called Calamity Corner?
Because originally with Calamity Corner, remember, it was where potential crashes could happen on the pit entry with the different braking marks. I think one of the more recent examples you could think of is a couple Daytona 500s ago when one of the Rick Ware Racing cars, Corey LaJoy, ended up having a brake failure and nearly ran into the back of a few drivers.
Yeah, I still think there needs to be an actual corner called Calamity Corner on the road course somewhere.
To check myself, that was BK Racing, but it happened a couple years after that with Rick Ware Racing, actually, with a couple of their cars.
Uh-oh, Thomas Frisch back in the pits again.
I think his day may be coming towards an end, or at the very least towards a run as the 91 not making friends in Wayne Bridges. He stays to the bottom, and there goes all the time that group law gained on the main pack.
And Thomas Frisch came in for splash and go. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but you'll see him on the... Oh, okay. So he did the manual. He was trying to do manual repair, just realized he had no speed. Well, the problem is he's going to have no speed if this whole pack goes by him. He needs to... Oh, wow.
Oh, that was dangerous. That's where the blend line is, but that's also where common sense has to be used.
Well, I don't think it was his fault. I think it was a car on the track who almost came down onto the apron. But that was definitely closer than it needed to be.
Meanwhile, back to the race leaders. Right now, at the moment, we are just past halfway to the fuel run, and Grantham has led every single lap so far. For David, very strong run for this type of an event, to say the very least, and just speaks for the volumes of the talent he's showcased in special events over the past 6 to 8 months. And you have to keep in mind, too, the lap cars in this pack are working in full unity, in fact, with this top 3. And that's a smart thing, because guess what? That puts them at the very edge of getting a lap back when they have to pit, for example, if you get atomic caution.
Yeah, again, if you're only 1 lap or 2 laps down, I definitely don't think the race is over yet. We're going to see an entirely different race in the last 50 laps than what we're seeing now. I do anticipate a second round of pit stops in the not too distant future. And that could definitely make things interesting, because your little Calamity Corner could bring out our second yellow of the day. We'll have to wait and see.
Taking a look back once again at Pack 3. The numbers have grown in this pack. Now 11th to 17th run in this pack. It's Resch who leads, and if you squint enough, you may notice the paint scheme is a little bit on the fun side. Remember those schemes we talked about? Some of them wanting to go with the Unity for teammates. Then you have Resch, who, if you look above the Ford logo, it is where it's a throwback to the very old backdrop to the Xbox Live in its service on the Xbox 360 when it first launched in 2005-ish. And his gamer tag is Open Throttle.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting paints out there. As long as your Xbox, as long as you have an Xbox paint that doesn't have any red on it, you're in good hands. Yes.
I think I went through a Red Rain of Death in the first few months, and then the second one lasted a very long time before the heat melted the hard drive by the end of the middle, or around to the middle of last decade. That's why there was the redesign, right?
I kind of feel like Xbox need to make a racetrack now and like, pave it with red clay or something. called it the Red Ring of Death.
While you make that planning for that, we look back to the race leaders, where there's only 2 red cars with red, or rather 3 with red, 1 with pink. As we look towards these paint schemes, mind you, you have some of those who also mentioned, for example, the race leader in Grantham. That's intriguing look. There's the throwback look too, and then there's the modern-esque look. Like Connor McGinn, for example, I want to reference him. In the 21 in sim, he was as far back as the low 20s because of the draft effects early on and lost the draft early. He's one of the key figures now in Pack 2 at his highest point of the race in 7th.
That's a Justin Haley paint, isn't it? That's what Justin will be...
believe so.
Yeah, the Leaf Filters car. That's what Justin will be rocking in the number 31 during Sunday's Daytona 500 for Core League Racing.
What's the hashtag? Trophy hunting is the tag that they like to ensue when it comes to some of the drivers. Remember, for Core League Racing in real life this year, they have 2 full-time chartered cars. 1 does not have a full-time driver, though. That is a rotation of drivers who are looking to gain experience, such as Noah Gregson. You have, as well in that, AJ Allmendinger, who won for that team last year as well, and Haley's in the full-time car. And remember, Haley's won at Daytona before in the Cup Series, albeit with the rain delay, back a few years ago.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping for good things for Core League Racing this year. It's always nice to see newer teams come along.
Now in lap 30 of the fuel run, for those keeping track, we are within 8 to 12 laps of the estimated window for drivers to pit. For that mark, that would get us to about around lap 70, which then would take drivers mathematically to around lap 110, lap 150, and then it gets dicey from there, Samuel, because if you do the math of a 40-40-40, you're 10 laps to go. We might see drivers, if they've been able to save, try and stretch it tightly, barely get to that mark, because even 40 was stretching it if that was to go green and Coke on Tuesday.
There's nothing that I think guarantees a long green flag run better than a near wreck. Whenever you have a big wreck early on, or a moment that we saw down the back straight about 20 laps ago that spreads the field out, that really sets you up for a race where you get these longer green flag runs. So I wouldn't be surprised if you know, we do have to follow that philosophy of pitting every 40 laps or so for the next couple of stints. But eventually, I wouldn't depend too much on strategy right now, because eventually I think we will get a yellow flag, and that could definitely mix up how things unfold at the end of a race.
And who's on the lead lap in turn, mind you? Who has to take a wave? Who would have extra fuel on board if there are drivers pinched down? As we still see, though, the second pack's kind of become the wrestling match pack. They've lost 2 seconds the past couple. None of them want to work together anymore. Some want to try the wall, some want to try the bottom, some are side drafting each other, all in the mixture of trying to shuffle some of the damaged cars. Now the 7 is indicated to send it to McGinn to become the lead car. They lost 2-3 seconds from this. They're not done yet.
Yeah, and I think he's... The smart thing to do would be, you know, to try and help guys on the inside pass you. Maybe give it 95% throttle, maybe run up really high so that, you know, you're running more track than you need to. But yeah, no, the way they're racing each other here, almost going 3 wide there, that's not the way to maintain your momentum.
Nearly 10 seconds back of the race leader now because of all this. Finally, McGinn gets clear, and now they've sorted things out. Keeping an eye on this too, you can already see the difficulty for some just to stick the line at this point. The 9, for example, big bobbles.
We've got 17 cars left on the lead lap now. Down to 21st, 1 lap down. Then we got Wayne Bridges 2 laps down and Thomas Fries 3 laps down. So they're the two that would be hoping for yellow fever a little later on.
Especially with the way things are trending, Kruzka's without a pack, Standridge is still without a friend in the 22. It could be an intriguing run towards the very end if this continues, but you never know when it comes to Daytona, especially since the lead group has gained more cars. They picked up Bernardi and Gao in their grouping for the fight for the Lucky Dog. The next car who is at risk to be lapped would be Kruzka, but that would be after pit stops.
Yeah, well, the bad news for Kruzka right now is he had been working, I think, with a couple cars ahead of him, but he's lost their draft, and currently Kruzka is the only driver on the track without a friend, as opposed to the grandstands where usually I'm the only person in the stands without a friend. But right now, you definitely want to have friends out there on the racetrack.
I'm not sure which racetracks you go to, but I've had friends who go on their own to the race just to have fun and see who they meet.
When was the last time I went to a NASCAR race? I'm trying to think of this one now. Hold on. Find something interesting out here to talk about, Justin. I've got to try and remember.
While you go dig to find your tickets from that previous event, our driver has lost the draft, and Jason Chilton just about. He is very much at the very edge of a lap car, in fact. That second pack is down to 4th through 9th on lead lap fighting. Here's intriguing discussion on the radio, though, we're hearing, Samuel. Drivers are thinking not even taking tires at all with this car.
Probably... Sorry, I hit a wrong button there. Probably not a bad decision doing a long green flag run like this. We've actually had a lot of cloud cover during the middle of this race, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's cooled these tires down a little bit.
Speaking of cooling down, the track has cooled down to 97 degrees Fahrenheit, which in theory means more grip, but also this track has had a lot of rubber buildup, marble buildup, Samuel. And in turn, William Kruzka has turned his way to a pit box, and I believe he is popped away. He had a black flag.
Yeah, it might have been speeding coming into the pits. They'd lost the draft. I don't know if that's him calling it a day.
I think it is for Kruzka.
Yeah, I don't know if he has something going on from a strategic standpoint. I don't think that's a smart decision. He may have lost the pack and been about to go a lap down, but again, I think everyone's still in this race, but who knows, he could have some real life event going on.
Remember, he is a big part of this event, so he may now have decided to make sure the drivers are in line with all these battles. There was a lot of chatter over the radio after that major incident with the number 9 before. So all the drivers in Pack 2 have now stabilized just about around 10.6 seconds back of the race lead. But the fuel communication is now going to be critical. Timing on the pit marks is going to be very dangerous though, Samuel, because if anyone tries to back it up too early, let's say, and you're not expecting it, Calamity Corner could ensue again.
It sounds like the completion of lap 71 is where we anticipate this lead pack coming into the pits. So they are completing lap 69 now. 2 laps to go until pit stop time.
And it's going to be the first major example of the day of green flag stops to see which drivers can get to the speed limit. Because if you speed, Samuel, it's a 40-second stop and hold in iRacing. That is not going to be something any of these drivers want to do, because that is essentially a 1-lap penalty.
And I think we're going to see someone have that 1-lap penalty.
Remember calling the majors edition of the Daytona 500 for the European side, Samuel. I believe it's around a quarter of the field picked up speeding penalties that day with that next-gen car, with drivers learning how to handle the brakes. Expecting the window for drivers this time. Most of the field now at lap 40. Grantham has indicated he's coming this time.
Yeah, I think a few people are going to. I'm from England originally, so I can say this. I'm going to assume that the Europeans will caught speeding because they're used to pit limiters doing the work for them.
I mean, that's a thought. It's still, though, something you have to kind of get to the speed limit before you hit the button. For the limiter, there is no limiter, mind you, in the next-gen car.
All right, here come the leaders. Well, supposedly, here come the leaders. Yep.
There they... Oh, the 4 nearly runs into Grantham. Joe Hagan dives it down to the commitment cone. No speeding from this pack to start off the window.
Hagen just made them all look like amateurs, didn't he? He hit pit road right on 60 miles an hour and beat them all by 5 car lengths.
Your contact in the second grouping. One driver has got a speed in Wayne Bridges. More contact to the entry as a few drivers have bumped, including one into the wall. And guess what? It is Bridges. Philip Hesch, though, he was leader of Pack 3. He's been caught speeding. At the cone, he was at 74 miles per hour. Look at the change, though, off the lane. Grantham has lost the lead. He lost time to the 4.
Jason Chilton was trying to come in that lap and had to abort. He realized he wasn't going to make it, so he's gone around, so he's going to lose quite a bit of time.
What a time for a mistake like that, to say the very least, as that's going to cost Chilton even more time. He is half a track back of the net race leaders. He may end up, by the time he gets rolling, be losing a lap in about 15 laps time. Last of the drivers expecting right here, last on the lead lap coming in this time, is the 22, as he's also ducked into the pit lane, and he's also been booked for speeding.
Yeah.
With Thomas Frisch on his back bumper.
I would have put money on that just watching that.
But how important is knowing your entry mark, Samuel? Race lead? It's changed to the point where there's a lap car as the buffer in Hayden Wheeler, but it's Hunter Geohagen who is now the race leader.
So we got 5 cars in the lead pack, one of which you mentioned is lapped, actually a couple of which I think are lapped. And then again, we've got some smaller packs, all about 5 cars big. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of this on Sunday in the real world too.
Especially with the rhythm of how the 500 could fare out in the real world. Knowing how tightly some of these teams are being stretched when it comes to the supply of next-gen cars as well. With that, though, as we have completed our pit stop window, Scott Ricard of note has had to come in an extra time here. Check that, he was able to stretch at 42, but was already 20 seconds behind the race leaders before his stop. Let's take the time to run you down quickly your top 8 on the circuit. Joe Hagan is the race leader. Grantham's in second after leading the opening 70 laps. Stevens is now in third. McGinn is the leader of Pack 2 in fourth. Yancey and Jeffrey also keeping within that pack to round out the top 6. Belissaire and Lambert are grouped up in Pack 3. Everybody else is either in one-car groupings without any friends or in tandem packs here after this one. So far with the pit stop window. 125 laps to go this time by. We'll take a listen in to the sights and sounds of Daytona International Speedway. Let's listen in on board your race leader, the number 4, Joe Hagan.
Justin might have stepped away. All right, well, it looks like we've got a caution flag here on the speedway, and we're not really sure what it's for. William Kruska has thrown it manually, so it might just be a way to get everyone regrouped. And, you know, Kruska came down pit road not too long ago and pulled his car to a halt. I wonder if this was a plan all along, to kind of get some green flag laps in and wait for a point in the race where he could regroup and get everyone back together, because he was unable to throw the caution flag when we had that big moment down the back straight. Or maybe I am completely wrong and there is a reason for the caution. Let's see what this replay shows us.
What in the world, first of all, as Ricard goes to the grass, loops it to the left. I don't understand here.
I think what's happened, Justin, this is just a theory. I think what happened is the drivers were complaining, hey, we have no live race admin. There should have been a caution for that car spinning down the back straight. And so Kruska was in the race, so he couldn't do it. But the race wasn't going his way, so he came into the pits, let them all cycle through their pit stops, and then threw the caution manually to kind of get everyone back on the same page. It's just a theory. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm just kind of putting two and two together here.
I kind of want to say the line of a certain YouTuber, but I don't think I should. Pit stops for Kramer, Brent, and Bennett, by the way, who elect to top off here. Everybody else staying out because they just pit a few laps ago, but this changes the whole entire complexion of this race, because what was becoming groupings of 3 at the most, 2, some on their own. Welcome back to the pack again. 14 cars are on the lead lap. And there is talk of, if drivers will have to even try and save, it will be a tight 3 stop from here. If I'm not this right, yes, 2 or 3 stop.
Yeah, but again, I have a feeling we're going to see a bit of a different race during the second half. I don't think it'll be going green all the way to the end.
Will that be true? Find out on the other side of this break. You're watching Sim Racers for Mental Health Action from Daytona.
That combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back once more to tonight's coverage of the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500 after an intriguing caution brought out by Scott Ricard. Justin Britt, Samuel Ryman with you in the booth. Zach Johnson, our producer, as the green flag's out. Joe Hagan in control of the field. And now the field is back bunched up. Now it gets interesting now with 122 to go, that time by the stripe. What was a small grouping of 3 or 4 in the race lead pack is back up to 15 on the lead lap in general.
Yeah, but the cars at the back of the pack, including 15th place Hayden Wheeler, they've really lost this lead draft. Remember, there are a few cars out here carrying a little bit of damage still.
Oh, a 3-car bump draft now in the bottom. The top getting its most formed up grouping yet. McGinn might be able to make this work. Jeffrey trying to push him clear off the start. Despite the damage to the 23, he's been able to help the 21 take the race lead.
Nicely done. Let's see if there's still momentum here on that high side. I've been keeping an eye on Evan Lambert all race long. He's made a couple of questionable moves. None of them have really led to disaster so far. However, unfortunately right now it doesn't look like he's doing enough. The outside line is fading.
Something wrong with Eric Kramer. He scraped the wall in the 11 car. And he's got some right side damage. Went very close to the safer barrier in 1 and 2 there, to the point where he's lost 5 car lengths in the top. Most of the top line, though, has dissipated in turn. Most of the drivers going back to choo-choo train formation, except for 3. Jeffrey, Lambert, and Stewart, who are all trying to get the top to work and are finding a little bit closer compared to the last time they tried this group together.
We're 200 miles into this 500-mile event, and Connor McGinn is the one leading them around. And like I say, Justin, that really was a power move to pull that off.
And this is not going to be easy for just 3 cars to get this to work, mind you. You see how much they're stalling out. In fact, none of them are able to side draft from the drivers on the bottom side. In fact, the 23 just got side drafted by the 14 a little bit there. The 9 of Lambert also losing ground. And it gets back to the chess match formation, Samuel. Drivers, as we talked about, going to be tight on the fuel mark in case it goes green. You have that expectation. It won't, of course, as you said. But here's the thing. You can't necessarily say, oh, we're just going to get a caution, I'm just going to go full. Even though the 7 clipped the apron there for a little bit of a dangerous moment to break up the point. It's the type of race where, in the type of event, you have to plan for it to go green just in case.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen a couple of questionable moves today that have led to minor incidents and a couple of caution flags, but for the most part, these drivers have been able to do a good job at keeping this race green. We've only had 2 cautions. One of them was manually thrown, so as far as the iRacing sim is concerned, we've only actually had 1 crash that warranted a caution so far today in our opening 80 laps. And, you know, the intensity of this race, I don't think is going to ramp up for another 80 laps or so. So, yeah, there's a very real possibility that we will see another round of green flag pit stops, that we'll see some cars lose this pack again and go down a lap or 2. And you know, it is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, because we do still have some cars trapped 2 or 3 laps down. You do have to be careful about how far back you go.
Of note, Standridge has pulled up to the pit lane, sped into the pit lane, and is now jumped out of the car. So the 22 may be done for the night. That leaves us with 21 running. As a result, at the moment, 5 are fighting for the lucky dog. Bernardi, if there was a caution right now, would be in range to get it because he is in the lead pack. In fact, he and Chris Gow were the only 2 who are 1 lap down after the restart to hold on to this.
Got a couple of cars at the back of a pack here whose connections are blinking in and out a little bit. Saw the number 11 of Barry Kramer drop out for...
Oh, 3 wide. And 1 car nearly to the wall. That's the 23, Jeffrey, who gets taken 3 wide by the number 9.
And now it looks like they're going to go single file again for a little bit.
That was a little bit sketchy, though, with Jeffrey with his damage a bit more picked up from the 23 as a result. However, that doesn't help the case for the drivers trying to work together, because Phil Bresch, who is a lap down, for example, he's leading the second pack, which is the same group Hayden Wheeler is in. And with this package, that seems to be the downside of it. If you get the lucky dog, you still have to pay the price of, okay, now I need the caution to make sure I can maintain the lead lap here.
Yep, it's not always as easy as it looks. Sometimes you have to get lucky. The thing is this is a long race, a 500-mile race. If you just maintain yourself in a good position, eventually you might get lucky.
So the rhythm's still staying towards the bottom side here for these drivers. And we mentioned this being a fixed setup race, there are some differences on how these drivers may look at the fixed setup and say, what can I change here? Well, keep in mind, it's not as simple as a steering ratio anymore. It's a steering pinion, for example, Samuel, and you need to know exactly what the pinions do. For example, default, at some tracks, 2.36. Can go up to as low as 1.57 or 3.15. Some have tried to rationalize of, okay, this works like a 16-to-1 or like a 8-to-1, for example. When you look at that and don't do the research, it's like, okay, why am I looking at trigonometry homework now? I know I have that same reaction when Christian Challenger tried to explain the brakes.
Yeah, and everyone has their own philosophy on how they like to set something like that up. Even in the fixed setup, you can play around with the steering pinion. That's more of a comfort level thing. For me, because I race the IndyCar, or at least the DW12 over in the Lionheart series, what I found in that series is that I found a number that I'm comfortable with, and I like to take that to each track that I go to, with a couple of exceptions. If I know I'm going to a twisty course, I don't know, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve comes to mind, where there's a lot of left-right chicanes, I might get a quicker steering box for a track like that to so that I can easily go from left to right. But you know, everyone's got their own philosophy, but that's the way I approach it. I find a number in a particular car that I'm comfortable with, and I usually take that to each track.
Especially on the oval side, you have to consider. Some people have had the philosophy in the past of 16-to-1, in some people's opinion, might be the best for tire saving. Others say, oh, I can make tire saving better with an 8-to-1. It's driver-to-driver preference. You mentioned, by the way, Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques Villeneuve has actually qualified for the Daytona 500 with a brand new team as well. That was initially supposed to run part-time in the road courses. Seen earlier today, he considered that just below winning the Formula One championship in 1997.
Yeah, and the thing I found interesting, I don't think Villeneuve actually went out on track during NASCAR's last practice session today. Yeah. And
he had some problems in his duel, for reference, where he couldn't get the car started for the duel. He stayed on the pit lane on the pace laps, got it going for the green, let everybody go, pulled it down within the first lap or so. So something happened with the 27, unfortunately, in the real world action. So for Villeneuve, he's, from what I can tell, though, based on the perception and some of the reaction on social media, I think the excitement was just making the race in an open car just on time, on speed.
So you're thinking he might be a start and park?
I'm not saying that, but it's their first time as a group, mind you, of a group that includes those who will be driving in NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series competition as well. That's where that perspective came in, with the drivers coming in from Europe.
Chris Goff has pulled out to the top line here to let 2 lead lap cars go by, but I don't think that's a good idea, because now look, none of them, all 3 of them might lose that lead draft.
And that's not great for them at all. Very tail end of the draft they're holding on to.
Oh, there's a big track up in the pack ahead. That might actually save them here.
Yep, indeed it might. As long as they don't have the checkup cost those drivers the pack, it looks like, in fact, they're back up to speed in time for them to hold on to the tail end. Only 9 laps away from halfway this time around. At the moment, lead grouping, 14 of the drivers on the lead lap are in it. 1.5 seconds separating them. And the more I see this, the more I think it's going to be pretty difficult to be able to find a friend or 10 to be able to make some moves if you're the back half, similar to what point I was making earlier, Samuel. You want to be up front to have a chance to finish up front, so to speak.
Yeah, but we did see some experimenting going on in the first 20 laps where we did have a bit of side-by-side racing and drivers were trying to side draft on the outside to see how that worked for them. So, you know, maybe everyone just got their notes early and then know what they've got and what they need to do for the end of a race. And right now they're just riding laps until we get to that point.
What do you do when you're in the pack like this? Do you listen to music? Do you try and sing on the radio yourself? I've heard different methods during these types of runs, as the 45, it appears, wants to go to the back of the pack. Or at least let a car go.
Yeah, John Bennett, the number 20 car, has been blinking in and out a little bit. I think there's a couple of drivers toward the back of his pack that have had a couple minor connection issues. Maybe that's why they've dropped to the back. Looks like they're all putting someone down there. Normally when I'm in a race, Justin, I don't get bored enough where I need to sim music or anything. Sometimes when I'm doing fuel runs in practice, so that is a problem.
Wait, you actually sing during the practice?
I've been known during some practice sessions to put a podcast on in the background.
Like you're actually doing your podcast in the middle of the practice while you're in the car saying...
I'm listening to a podcast.
Okay, I was gonna say. But I will say it gets intriguing, some of the conversation that comes up, because there was one Daytona 500 ran in official action a few years back where the main group was consistently having a bit of a check, and every time there was a check up, I would say check on the open radio, check, check, quarter check, half check, check, check. And by lap 26, it became where everybody was starting to make a rap about the amount of checks being said on the radio. Some people like to have fun.
Did anyone say checkmate?
No, I don't think so that time. As the 53 gets shuffled, as there goes check for Brent.
Yeah, so Tony Brent dropping to the back of a pack here. He is one of our lead lap cars. They're still running single file. Now, our caution flew about lap 75, didn't it? So we're about halfway through the run here.
Funny how these runs can blow by, right? They're 47-second lap times this year.
And also cautions are a bit quicker because the pace car's going around at 8 miles an hour. And I'll take that back, actually. We're probably over halfway through the fuel run because, of course, they all made pit stops about 5 laps before the yellow flew.
And that's going to be an intriguing wrinkle because some of the people did stay out there. Only a couple topped off, albeit only one of those drivers are in the pack because... remember Kramer? He's already fallen back right to where Wheeler's at. So 13 lead lap cars, plus a couple lap drivers are now in the main pack. So that's an intriguing wrinkle to think about, too, with those who topped off, because do you go with the pack knowing you still have an extra 5 laps, but it throws off your fuel numbers in turn, or do you take the gamble of going those extra 5, but knowing you're going to lose ground on the track in of itself?
Yeah, it could be an interesting gamble. Yeah, I would say pit with the pack. I'm still fairly certain that we'll end up seeing more cautions later on.
You never know when Carnage is going to come out, though. That's the thing. It just decides to do its own thing. It's not as simple as, welcome to the Chaos 200 presented by Chaos, where there's a wreck every 2.7 laps. It's not as simple as that. Most times.
Yeah, but I don't foresee caution coming out in the not too distant future. Again, at the start of this race, I was worried that these 15-car trains we've been seeing, the checkups can get pretty bad in them, and I thought we would see some cars running into each other, but I've got to give this field credit. They've been very good at being heads up, giving each other a little bit of space, a little bit of room, and we haven't really seen the checkup lead to any major incidents today. We've seen it lead to a few cars getting shuffled out of line when people have timed their runs wrong. So I think while these drivers are running single file, we can stay green like this, and I don't think anyone has any intentions right now of really running side by side, at least in this lead pack. Where things might get a little bit messy is when we come into the pits, which will probably happen between laps 110 and 115, so about 10 to 15 laps away. And we just saw the last time we had a round on green flag pit stops a variety of issues. We had one car spin into the pits, we had one car miss pit road entirely, we had a couple cars get done for speeding, and so what's the second round going to play?
Especially with halfway next time around, to be precise, complete. And with 12 lead lap cars in the group. Those are another major discussion. Some tempers flaring in one of the groupings. Cars are on the apron. It's Tony Brent, who did lose the main grouping, as well as one of the lap cars in Bernardi. And they had some chaotic moments because Bernardi went high, but Tony Brent did not want to go high. He stayed low, Samuel, and they nearly wrecked it.
Yes, a bit of miscommunication and disagreement here. So two slower cars being caught by the pack, and like I say, they go two different ways.
And he goes on the apron, too. That you can't do that at full speed.
Yeah, no, I mean, they all got through there okay, but yeah, that's not it's not the correct way to let the pack by, no.
That was scary. We stay green. We're just past halfway as a result, meanwhile. Drivers are already talked about being able to go maybe 17 laps up to the most. We'll see how this breaks down.
It was a big checkup at the back of this lead pack, and Evan Lampert just ran right into the back of Thomas Stewart. Don't know if it did any damage to either of them, but looked pretty bad from where I was watching.
Yeah. Looked pretty bad for the radiator panel, possibly for Lambert. It is crunched in at the same spot where the 64's back bumper's now crunched in. Lambert may have a bit of trouble keeping up with this grouping, though, and for some of the drivers, they have reported overheating issues in this race with some of the pushing. That's going to be a problem, too, especially with the difficulty to close up we've seen today. Look right there.
I'm pretty sure that was a 4X.
Pretty sure you're correct with how hard that contact was.
For whatever reason, though, I think a checkup was big because for whatever reason, this lead pack is going a little bit slower. The second pack is catching them hands over fist right now. They were 6 seconds
You
back.
know why?
Why?
Most of the drivers, remember, stayed out right. If they're banking on a 3-stopper to the end, or 3 to 2 stops or so, they're not going to be able to make it to their mark if they go full out to 120 is where they need to go.
So wait, Conor McGinn, I see what you're saying here. Conor McGinn is only going 182 miles an hour. He can go a lot faster than that. You think this entire lead pack is agreeing to only run 90%?
They have to at this point.
Yeah, someone's got... at some point, someone in this pack is going to say, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm going to jump out of line and pass them all.
Hayden Wheeler and company have gotten to the point where because everyone's trying to fuel save and have realized how much they've lost in terms of the fuel marks and how off some of them are in terms of making to the end, 4 cars have just reeled in a train of about 12.
I don't understand why the sleeve pack is doing this. You don't need to stretch fuel to get to the end. No matter what happens, we were probably going to have a caution. But now we're probably definitely going to have a caution because they're all one massive pack.
So Wheeler's back in the lead grouping. Kramer and Brent are nearly back there. Jeffrey is going full throttle. They're nearly rocking at the back of the group with Thomas Frisch and company. Everybody's trying to make some moves here.
Connor's still doing it. He's still going around at 180 miles an hour.
Here comes the run on the high side. This is full throttle on the top.
Yeah, Connor's finally just put his pedal back down to the metal. That hasn't really accomplished anything other than reuniting the 2 packs.
For them to have made the mark they were talking about, they had to have top off Samuel. Because they didn't top off, this may have just gotten intriguing if it stays green, because John Bennett, Tony Brent, Barry Kramer are the only drivers who are on the lead lap who topped off under caution. If it goes green, it's their race to lose now, because they may be able to make it if they stay with the pack here and save as well.
Yeah, I just think that's way too much of a big if.
Kramer, though, is still struggling to hold on without any help. Brent, though, has gotten back to the lead grouping with the help of Scott Ricard. Little close move as Stewart not happy. Lambert cleared himself in the heart of the Hornet's nest.
Yeah, been a couple of little arguments. How much fuel did that even save, though? If that was the purpose of what McGinn was trying to do there, that wouldn't have saved him but a straight away of fuel.
Even then, he's the lead car, which burns more fuel in the first place because you have to go more open throttle compared to those who can run maybe half at the same effect. That is going to be intriguing in one of the storylines, possibly the race, if it goes green or long enough for this to change the complexion of the lead grouping. Bernardi wants his lap back, though. He is leading the train on the top, and he's bringing Phil Bresch, who is in the Lucky Dog battle as well. Tony Brent, who is on the lead lap, could take the lead from this.
And let's not forget that the round of pit stops, if we stay green, that's a bit of a big if, might only be 5 to 10 laps away. So these drivers are finally starting to pack race for the first time in about 100 laps. But they all might have to mind each other in a few laps as some of them duck down into pit road.
Let's put it this way. As Bernardi gets loose, Bernardi nearly loops it from the top out of 2. What a save by Yancey.
Now the inside line, top 10 cars have been able to break away there. That the cars at the back here, they need to get themselves sorted or else they're going to lose this draft again.
Remember what we talked about with cars getting squirrely? Another one just did in front of Ben Chilton. Some of them on the top are still getting squirrely. That is a very, very scary moment. Let's put it that way with some of that push coming off the corner.
Looks like the worst of it is over. We had a nice little pack going there for a lap, but now we're kind of bringing the train back, which is probably a good thing if we're about to have pit stops.
Keep an eye on that entry once again. Just 3 speeding penalties came in the last time. Only is the key word there. How many do we get this time? Once the window comes down, we'll see as we start lap 110 this time. No major moves yet for any of the drivers wanting to maybe jump to the race lead before the pit stop window. In fact, most of the drivers already giving themselves that easy access. Get to the bottom, make sure they can duck down for their window, except for maybe one, Ricard, who is battling with Lambert still, who are not on the same lap.
Yeah, we've got a massively long train of cars here. 15 cars still on the lead lap, 14 of them in this lead pack. Barry Kramer is the one who's about half a lap back, but obviously still a lot of racing left to go, so I don't think he needs to be too worried yet.
Really liking this rhythm still for some of the drivers and the patience being shown by some. Most of the field, mind you, still has the faster pair in hand, if they so choose, as some shuffling towards the back again, you see. It's Chris Gal, who is currently in the blue, number 88. Outside, it's Resch, who is losing himself ground by trying to pass the last car running, Wayne Bridges. Calls for pit stops coming soon around lap 113 and lap 115 is the call.
A few more laps, and that would explain why everyone's content just to run single file here.
Exactly, and usually the main times during this window where you see drivers in the middle are the ones who feel confident enough to jump the line, and that hasn't been the case for most people here today. Who's impressed you the most, though, I have to ask, because here's the thing to mention for who I'm most impressed about. Begins up 19 spots from the start. And it was not an easy 19 spots. Remember, he was one of the ones who lost the draft early, nearly lost a lap, and now he's the leader entering the next stages of green flag stops now.
Yeah, I was impressed by how McGinn got the lead, but I mean, Gorhagen and Grantham, they've been up there all race long. They haven't always been leading it, but they've definitely been featuring prominently up
Here we
front.
Go. It stops for the first time this window. Gal and Wheeler into the lane this time. No penalties for either of them, although the 88 did bring a smoke show while locking up the left front tire. Drivers have been taking about 15 seconds or so on average in the box. Gal able to find his box along with Wheeler, so those drivers are in. No tires is the call, though, for either of those drivers. And that's the misconception people have still, is that pit stop times are still the same compared to the Gen 6 car on iRacing. So no tires doesn't really gain you any time as McKinn comes in.
I thought we were going to see more. A lot of cars coming in the back of a pack, almost running over each other.
Oh, they are running into each other, one into the grass. That's Chilton. Somehow, no one sped.
We were complimenting
Check that.
McGinn.
Thomas Stewart just got a penalty. He just got the speeding late.
We were complimenting McGinn a moment ago. I know it's always hard to be the one leading the packing because you can't kind of judge yourself off of the cars in front of you, but he came in very conservatively and lost a bunch of car lengths. Think we're about to see a lot more cars pit here. No, maybe one more lap, and they've got some lap traffic to deal with.
And this is going to be an important one to stretch forward. Remember, max is 42 estimated. If you really save...
Drew Bernardi has spun on the apron, exiting the pit. Somehow everyone's missed him.
Oh, that's a bad spot to park it. He just parked it in front of Evan Lambert and gave him a black. They're wrecking off turn 2 from it. That is Fagan who's going around. No caution. We stay green. So far.
On the apron, and Fagan was lucky to recover that. Remember, he's already used his free repair. Yeah, Evan Lambert got a penalty. He'll be asking to get that cleared because it wasn't his fault. He had to avoid the car that was on the apron. However, I don't think that's a caution that admins can clear.
Here comes more pit stops, and into the commitment they go. No indication of speeding from any of the drivers from the first segment. They are good to go for their stop. Lambert, I don't know how, no unsafe pit exit as a result of crossing the blend line to avoid a stopped car on the apron. So he got lucky, at least from that mark, has more trouble.
Fagan, He avoided everything on the back straight, but locks it up coming into the pits and noses it into the wall. Now, he'll be able to keep going, but he'll have to pull out any dents the hard way. Again, he's already used his free repair.
Oh, that doesn't help at all for the Sevens day. Everything is happening in this pit window.
So, yeah, Drew Bernardi, the number 86 car, exiting the pits. A lot of cars. So this was a little ways after it happened.
Yeah.
We'll back to replay up about 30 seconds more. Here we come. A lot of cars coming. Well, this is when he comes into the pits. Does his nice little pit stop. As he goes out of the pits after this pit stop.
Oh, and he
missed his.
He already missed his stall in the first place. And all this just snowballed, it seemed, for Calamity as,
There we
wow,
go.
he went up into the apron for this.
He does a 360, then tries to, and then he doesn't know what to do. And Lambert goes up onto the racetrack while the pack was passing him. The number 7 of Fagan was part of that pack who loses control and almost Danica Patrick's it into the inside wall, but doesn't.
This was an adventure still, even then, because then he enters the lane after all that. And then after the massive save, bye-bye. You avoid damage for all that, and then you still damage the car.
Meanwhile, up front, Hunter Gorgan leads the race. 4 lead lap cars in the lead pack. Well, maybe 3 lead lap cars in the lead pack. Can Yancey hold on?
And here's a big thing. Because of, well, the chaos. Guess what? They have about a 6-second advantage of actually ditched Yancey because of Yancey's door damage. And now it's a 3-car breakaway. Everybody else is trying to chain up and train up about 6.3 seconds back of the race leader as they pass the 64.
McGinn is going a lap down. I don't know what happened to Conor McGinn, if he got speeding penalty or whatever, but he was leading the race before all this kicked off, and now he's a lap down.
Something has happened to McGinn, it appears, while we were showing the replays, because I believe he came down a second time is why. And remember, blue cone penalties are important to avoid, and knowing where he can blend onto the track, I almost wonder if he didn't put enough fuel in, maybe? I'm not sure because
trouble in turn 1 and 2, and this will bring out the yellow.
Caution is out. 3 cars wreck. It's Wheeler into the wall. Jeffrey into the wall. Stewart also in the vicinity as we're back at our yellow.
Everyone kept it pointing in the right direction, but there were some hard hits.
This was at the back of the second grouping, but it was Wheeler getting help from behind by Baudissaire, who ended up hitting the back bumper into turns 1 and 2 on a bit of a check. And in turn, the 92 gets hooked. Right there.
See, that brings out the yellow because he was pointing sideways, and then there's a couple of hard hits here. But ultimately, everyone keeps on going, but some cars aren't as pretty as what they started the race.
So the caution back out right there. Quarter panel. Here's a look from one of the red line logoed machines. This is a Ford. Listen in, Brent. Wow.
Yeah, it's a hard hit. There's only 13 cars on the lead lap. I know some drivers may have not pit too far ago and may be thinking, oh, I can save fuel under this caution. I don't get the point of playing that game. If you pit now, other people are going to pit. The worst you're going to restart if you're on the lead lap is 13th. You know, play the safe game. No. Make it to the end on one more stop from here.
Just top it off, yes. And wow, not many people are taking the pit stop except for Yancey, Baudissaire, and 7th on back also roll in. I'm shocked. the top 4 are not taking the call to make it safely on a one-stop.
Yeah, maybe they think we're going to see a lot more cautions in the second half of this race now, and it doesn't matter. Maybe track position is worth a little bit more at this point. That's I can see what they're thinking, where they're going with that, but at the same time, I like that safety call.
Lucky dog this time, Connor McGinn. So McGinn is back in the lead lap. That caution helps him after his issues into the pit lane. And everybody else trying to cycle around. Keep in mind, most of the drivers who are in the lane still are getting the manual damage repairs done. That includes Yancey, who still had that hard door damage on the side of the 51. And keep in mind, any bit of drag to this car can very much hamper you, and Yancey did have that impact at some points during the last run, after that one driver in Bernardi, who got loose, hit him in the door. So once again, the number 4 car of Geohagen is in the race lead, staying out here this caution. Stevens, Grantham, Chilton, now the top 4, who all stay out with Lambert, along with, surprisingly, Glenn Fagan is on the lead lap in 6th. How?
No, he hasn't pit, but you know, let's give a shout out to Sean Stevens in second place. I'm not sure we've mentioned him at all today, or that much.
And he was the winner of the truck race last week in Sim Race for Mental Health.
Yeah, maybe this, you know, this is kind of becoming a bit signature for him doing these speed weeks here on GSRC, just having quiet races and getting the job done.
So one goes Signal, and he's in a good spot potentially to be second in line, depending on how things fare out with the 4 on the top. Keep in mind that the next run for Sim Race for Mental Health in March in particular is Self-Injury Awareness 150 action. Be sure to catch that next month for their edition of that run. And they run these types of races every month in turn, keep in mind. Sim Race for Mental Health Daytona 500 of the Shine MSD 150 this month. They had the Cervical Health Awareness 150 back in January. It's something William Kruzko really likes to bring awareness to, and is mental health for all.
Yeah, and we appreciate him doing that, and everyone coming out here and putting on these shows for us. And definitely seeing, well, I'm going to knock on wood here, definitely seeing, I think, a much cleaner and more patient race than we saw in the trucks last week. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. There's times it's been a little bit of a slow burner, but there's been interesting talking points throughout the race, and I think a lot of those talking points are going to start paying off and come to fruition in these last 80 laps, because I really think the aggression is going to start picking up, and all of those tricks that we saw drivers testing in the opening laps of this race, they're going to start mattering now. 14 cars on the lead lap.
78 laps to go. Very early launch. The bottom doesn't go. Stevens caught sleeping. They waved the black flags for those who are on the outside line, with the 27 caught sleeping there. Wow.
Yeah, it's a very bizarre restart, but looks like they're all going to get grouped together and run as the lead pack. The top 2 have kind of broken away, but they'll be run down pretty quickly.
Oh, they're trying to clear himself, Fagan nearly contact with Lambert. Jeffrey forced up to the top there to avoid. Yeah, that was a little bit scary as Jeffrey finds a hole.
We've got a train again for the first 10 cars. I don't know how content these drivers are going to be to keep running single file like this.
Especially knowing that some are able to make it on just the one. Some are going to have a massive fuel save to make it to that mark. Others definitely will have to have a 2-stop if it goes green for this point, and are gambling on the potential of a caution. You never know when those could happen. Again, as we've talked about, Resch is leading that top line, mind you. You see down the back straightaway here. But Kramer's trying to get into a side draft battle with them and is holding each line up here. In fact, Kramer does not want to get this top line to gain momentum, it seems. Right there's the side draft.
Yeah, I thought up front this would be a little bit more second, and kind of getting the division of a pack here. I thought we would get a bit more aggression up front on this restart, but I have a feeling what you were saying there about some drivers electing to save fuel at the back here and let the leaders burn their fuel. That might be why these drivers are content to just ride around in 7th and 8th for now.
Bit of a scary moment there in 1 and 2. Ricard is not leaving the back bumper of the 83 in Resch. Look at the power of the tandem draft at full speed. The thing is, Ricard's been trying to bump draft in the corners too. They nearly bumped themselves into the wall that last corner.
Heard someone making a note earlier while watching tandeming in practice that they didn't think it was effective as what it used to be, you know, back around 10 years ago when that's how we raced the super speedway races. It looks like it's effective right now, though.
Especially with the amount of drivers who may be going that 80% throttle on the bottom. Run stalls out this time, though. Going to take the whole backstretch to be able to regain all the momentum from Ricard having to cool off.
Yeah, Highline had a lot of momentum, but like you say, it seems to have stalled out around 5th place. Couple of drivers on the low side thinking about going high and seeing if they can restart the momentum.
Curious thing about this too is these are the first cars 1 lap down, 15th and 16th. If they somehow clear the race leaders, they'll be at the tail end of the lead lap and won't have to rely on the lucky dog, and that would be huge based on the trends of the day.
Yes. Everyone's got their own agenda. I mean, this is a risky agenda. It's a lot safer to kind of sit at the back of a pack and hope you'll get a lucky dog when the next caution comes out. But this might be a little bit more effective. Like I say, it's been a much cleaner race than I anticipated, so we haven't had a lot of opportunities for drivers to get back on the lead lap. So if they're not going to get opportunities, they've got to make their opportunities.
So they still try and get the top to roll. Right now, the bottom line averaging about 8,200 RPMs for reference. Those at the back end of the grouping, 8,300. That top line is dropping to the 8,100s in RPM revs picked up in the corner. But they are getting, because of the runs they're getting with the tandem, as high as 8,600 RPMs in terms of how much horsepower they're ending up utilizing in that 5th gear.
72 laps left to go as the drivers come to the line. And it's Hunter leading the field, as he has done for a lot of his race. He's definitely been up there throughout most of it. Jason Chilton, let's not forget, he had a moment earlier on where he missed a pit entry and had to go around a whole nother lap, and now he is running up in 2nd. If you're going to make a mistake, make it early.
He was the one who paid the dividends the most, it seemed, on that restart from the top line from the control car. And the bottom line having such the slow start. He started that run in 4th, immediately got to 2nd because of the drivers caught sleeping. 4 cars now on the top line, and it looks like Ricard having to cool off, hence why they're losing ground again. The furthest they seem to be able to get right now is around Wheeler and Grantham. They haven't been able to make ground past 4th.
Yeah, look how badly damaged the Resch's car is, though. I mean, it's about that bad on the front of it, too.
I mean, when you get shoved so hard by Ricard, you can kind of see why. That's where some of the damage, I think, has come from. Right there, you see how big he's flooring it.
Here they go. They've got to run again.
And with the pointier nose of the Chevrolet, I'm surprised that he hasn't accidentally clipped the edge of that nose on the back end of the 83 here, as they have to check up again to cool off for the exit.
Well, because of these, the Cup cars in real life now have foam behind each bumper. I wonder if iRacing has gone ahead and simulated
There
that.
it is!
Oh.
Resch hooks him! Cars to the inside, 3-4. Caution is out as they smack hard at the back of the pack. The big one hits.
Yeah, that takes out the second half of that pack.
That's exactly what it's talking about. Edge of the Chevrolet nose. Hooked on the edge of it.
All right, who's got their free repair left?
Neither of them are the lucky dog because of that. And Ricciardo seemed got high-centered, so he'll have to tow.
And he's still trying to spin the wheels and get out of there unless someone's coming around. Yeah. If you get in a situation like that, you got to tow immediately. It's not going to get better. Tow now, save yourself the time.
A good 8+ cars involved there in that one. Lambert, Thomas, Stewart. Come on, still significant damage. Stewart isn't out well from that. You had McGinn right back there, who just got to the inside part of the crash.
That's a nasty little bump there that they went over in the infield.
That may end off the day for Fagan after his repairs earlier. Here's a look.
Oh, it's a curb from the road course. That's what did it. Fagan might be able to repair that.
Oh! Look at that, though. The car just up the road there. I believe that may have been one of the drivers who was part of that sandwich to the inside who just went four-wheeling off the ground.
Yeah, it happened a couple of times. I think it might be the rumble strips from the road course, but we do see a couple of cars get airborne through the infield here.
That was McGinn. Look at this. This is not... No, that was not McGinn. That was actually the 83, I believe. Yes. That was Resch who went four-wheeling.
Meanwhile, we're going to keep watching replays, obviously, because this has really defined the race. But I'll let you know pretty much everyone's coming into the pits, which will allow many of the cars who are a lap down get their lap back.
See Resch getting significant damage there and amongst all that. Almost everybody except John Bennett for some reason not taking the stop that would make it a very clear-cut one-stopper to the end.
Drew Bernardi getting a wave around after spinning on the apron earlier on.
And a vast majority of the field lengthy pit stops from it.
Yeah, well, again, if I think it's still early enough where if you haven't used your free repair yet, but your car wasn't too badly damaged, you might still want to consider fixing it the hard way, because I think this is just the first of... I don't think this is the last big one.
Few drivers now have reached the incident limit and gotten black flags in turn. Wayne Bridges, Evan Lambert have both hit that mark. You have Chris Gal who's saying he is done for the night. He is having a meatball flag to serve, so that means his car is damaged to the point of no repair without having that all required damage fixed. So we've in turn lost at least 3 drivers from the big one here at Daytona.
Yeah, and the problem is if we see drivers coming in to serve a penalty, that means they're at 15 incident points, and at 19 incident points, they get completely disqualified and can't race anymore. So if you do see anyone coming in to serve a penalty because of getting up to 15 incident points, they're on their last breath.
Lambert has officially parked the machine for the night as we get the one-to-go signal. Fagan has not been able to get back on the track. As mentioned, he has a penalty, or did have a penalty, potentially, as he's got significant damage after losing part of the nose. He's 1 lap down. The rest of the drivers, 14 of them, or make that 13 now on the lead lap here as we get ready for the upcoming restart. Bennett is the only driver to stay out here. He is 13 laps into a run, significant damage to the 20 car, mind you, partly from that. Grantham is in second. Wheeler's up to third. Stevens, Joe Hagen, along with Schultz in the top 6. McGinn, despite being a big part of last incident, in 7th. He was the fast repair. Tony Brent, fast repair in 8th. Kramer, able to get his repairs now fully done with fast repair in 9th. Jeffrey has kept his bank of it with his front damage. I believe he may have used it earlier, though, because the back bumper is cleaner than before in 10th.
Yeah, another thing I'm a little worried about for this restart is John Bennett's car is blinking in and out quite a bit right now, and he's the control car for the restart. I think he'll still be able to continue. I don't think he's about to lose the internet connection. What happens a lot on iRacing is when someone's connection's not brilliant, you'll see them flicker a lot under caution, but once we get racing and the field gets spread out a little bit, you'll see that happen less. But the drivers will just have to be a little bit cautious of him as they take a restart here.
Not to scare those who are watching, he is the only driver in the field with a rookie license on ovals. Green flag is out. Bennett looking to earn those rookie stripes and try and show he can be a leader. He's immediately lost the race lead as Grantham makes the pass. The bottom is checking up hard because of the damaged car. And that's going to be scary as there's the internet saying, "Hi, I'm here."
Yeah. Curtis Yancey hit the bad of Thomas Reich really hard because of that. And I think Thomas was down 3 laps earlier. He's only 1 lap down now, so nice little feedback from him.
And Bennett's not liking getting pushed here. He nearly bumped his way to the inside of the racetrack with the help of Wheeler. Bit of a sketchy moment there, to say the very least. Bit of a dive now from the 23. Jeffrey wants to be behind Bennett, who is finally up to speed in 4th.
Yeah, so we got 13 cars on the lead lap. No, yeah, and 12 of them are still part of his lead pack. David Baldasser's dropped back a bit.
Grantham now the race leader. Once again, remember he led the first 70 laps in this one. And that's going to be interesting if he becomes the Pied Piper in turn, as he's kind of discussed a bit over the radio now. Tony Brent wants to pass by the damaged car with the troubles. But the problem is no one has wanted to get up there, and Wheeler tries to get under him. That causes a checkup, and now everybody may start to try and swarm up top.
Yeah, it's going to mix up the middle of the pack here, but remember, we've seen it all race long that if middle of this pack begins racing like this, sometimes the leaders can escape a little bit and we can end up with 2 packs.
Wheeler again, a hard checkup. Bennett is continuing to cause that massive bobble off the corner. Joe Hagen, who had controlled the lead for parts of this run for the caution for 26 laps, is now leading the top line and wants a chance up there again. No one, though, has been able to build the momentum yet again. Based on that weave there again from Bennett, somebody's going to have to try and do something here if they want to shuffle the 20 out.
And these laps are going to click off pretty quickly. If it went green to the end, which I doubt it, but it would be way less than an hour of racing left to go. So these drivers are going to have to start to think about how they want to approach the end of this race. And remember, they've all got to be cautious, because if we do start to get some incidents, some of them don't have any free repairs left, and some of them might be quite high on the incident limit.
Good half of the field had to use some of those fast repairs with a big one just moments ago. Jeffrey now leads the top. And keep in mind, it's not easy for some, especially if you're new to the platform, to be able to stick to your line on the bottom side. It takes a lot of wheel strength, as in how strong you can grip the wheel and comfortability and having that right sense of feel to be able to know, oh, hey, I'm about to weave up half a line here. Watch this weave right here. The 20's weaved up right there a few times the past couple laps.
Again, 13 cars on this lead lap, but it's quickly going to be 12. You can see Baldassare is part of a 3 or 4 car pack that's already half a lap down in just a few laps after we've been racing. So some damaged cars out there without a whole lot of pace, and hopefully that doesn't cause these leaders too much of an issue when they come up to lap them in a few laps.
61 laps to go now on that mark and turn. Now a bit of a wiggle. Now it's to the point where 6 are on the top trying to get around the 20. Wheeler's boxed in. Brent is boxed in. Kramer is boxed in. Yancey's boxed in. Fagan just wants to stay in the lead group.
These are some really fast speeds by this lead pack, and there on the bottom line, 192 miles an hour, our race leader Grantham as he hit the turn 3 banking.
With that track temperature continuing to kick on down now to as low as 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, last time we checked it around 87. Expect those speeds to get quicker as the sun starts to set. Ensign time is approaching 6:30 p.m. with 60 to go. And now with the top line having so many cars, it's to where drivers are trying to get to the bottom now to leapfrog each other.
Yeah, but all this is still happening for about 6 or so. The top 5 still running single file on the low line.
2 different drivers using the bottom now to gain spots. No one back to the top yet. Wheeler decided to go to the top after all the checks behind Bennett. Now the bottom is once again much quicker. 190 in the corners. Remember, they were only getting 186 when we started the day.
And this pack is going 5 seconds a lap quicker than the pack of 3 lap cars that they'll catch in about 2 laps time. Drew Bernardi, fastest lap of a race in the number 86. Remember, he was spinning on the apron earlier on, but he is part of this lead pack on the lead lap. One of the 12 fighting for the win right now.
Grantham and Stevens also got their fastest laps there. Here's Wheeler. Can he get himself clear for 4th? That run just dying off as there's no shove for the exit quite yet. Wheeler trying to get some help still. Just not able to fully close it on up quite yet to get around Bennett with those technical issues he's been having. Only driver in the race that's been dealing with them who are still running.
At the end of this lap, this pack is going to catch that pack of 3 very slow cars, and I'm going to be curious to see how that unfolds just because these 3 lapped cars are so far off the pace.
And they are about to reach those cars you mentioned, yes. Ricard, Bridges, Baldassare are those 3. And with it being side by side a couple rows, it could get intriguing if they elect to go to the bottom or the top. That could make a big difference for how this pack ends up flowing about here. They are now going to pass them this lap. 1 car is elected to just pit. Bridges and Baldassare are both staying on the bottom. That could get tricky. Now they're choosing the middle of the racetrack, back to the bottom. Middle line for most of the race leaders as that gets dicey. 1 car gets turned. The 11 gets hit by the left cars. Yancey gets spin for the caution.
Yeah, that wasn't very good execution there. They were all trying to communicate over the radio, but they just didn't stay low enough.
Several times, in fact, it seems, Samuel. What's the main mention? Be predictable as lap traffic. That started predictable, then became very unpredictable quick.
And the 11 of Barry Kramer's the one who just gets the slightest bit of contact and backs into the wall. Nice little pirouette there by the other car.
Thomas Frisch now with black flag after that. Baldassare, incident limit, black flag as well taken now. That was just... wow. Just not the greatest of timing with some of the traffic and just the worst of luck for Yancey. Great job to minimize damage here.
Yeah, kept off the wall too. Nicely done.
could have been much worse if he ended up just even tapping that safer barrier.
There's no point, really, to pitting under this caution. Some drivers might opt to top off of fuel, but I can understand if the leaders want to stay out.
Only person outside of those with damage may be Bennett, you could argue for, since he's 25 laps into a run. Bernardi you can also argue for, because despite his troubles, he is on the lead lap again. He is 32 laps into a run, may need to take fuel here to make sure he doesn't have to pit under green. So he may have been amongst those who took a risk to see if they can get a lead lap back. And now, most of the pack is taking the chance to top off here, it looks like. Yes, and a couple may take the wave. Wouldn't be surprised to see Resh try and take the wave around, because almost all the leaders, in fact, all of them, are in.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not a crew chief, because we've been saying for the last couple of cautions, hey, why aren't they pitting? And now we're saying, oh, they don't need to pit, and everyone's like, all right, we're pitting. Maybe they're just watching the broadcast and want to make us look stupid.
Preference between those wanting 2, wanting none, and wanting 4 tires here. Grantham won the race off the lane as seen. Stevens, Wheeler, Brent, the top 4. Johagen in 5th. McGinn, Chilton rather. Bennett took 4. He's in 8th. His gamble to stay out didn't gain too many spots. Jeffrey, Bernardi rounding out the top 10. Kramer and Yancey taking extended damage repair, because despite the save we've seen for the 51, he still got his left rear completely crushed in because of him getting clipped by the 11 on that caution flag period incident.
I'm just looking up here. There's something up here, Justin. Be back one moment.
It is worth noting, as you look towards that mark, one driver, just one, is looking to take a gamble here. And it is Glenn Fagan, who he's been up and down on the lead lap so far today. After his troubles earlier, he's got significant damage to deal with in the 7. After being involved with one of the bigger incidents, and he is looking to take the wave. One driver drives around. It's Wayne Bridges. Because just about everybody who was in the conversation for the Lucky Dog either hit the incident mark or had to pit for damage repair from being involved with the trigger.
And there goes Glenn Fagan back onto lead lap. So what I was looking up, Justin, my memory wasn't serving me well in NASCAR history. I remember Kurt Busch won a Wreckfest at the Daytona 500 in 2017, the first year that the first ever race at NASCAR Cup Series had stage races. It was an absolutely ugly race. Kurt Busch's car was all tore up, but he won the race. And I couldn't remember if he had the Blue Deuce paint scheme at the time, but no, it was the number 41 he was racing. And I was just getting flashbacks to that as I saw Glenn Fagan's car and how much damage it's carrying on that blue, well, not a Blue Deuce, but blue number 7 out there. And I'm thinking, you know what, he might actually be able to pull this off at this rate.
The thing is, if it goes green, the longest he can stay out is around the 10 to go mark. If that, maybe 12 to go realistically. So it's a gamble, but it's one where, you know, in the nature of Daytona, Samuel, usually if you don't take it, you end up getting no lottery numbers go your way. Let's put it that way. I took the risk of topping off instead of the wave in RTP and got a black flag for passing a car under yellow. But in seriousness, for this one, we have 53 to go. Thomas Frisch has had his black cleared after his troubles. He's going to the pit. He had 3 minutes and 17 seconds of repairs, but Grantham is off and away. Green flag is back off.
All right, so approaching the final quarter of this race now with 14 cars on the lead lap. But again, even
look at this. Grantham wanted the top, but Wheeler's making the bottom work here, Samuel.
Yeah, This is they're getting racier and racier and more aggressive. We still have at least one pit stop left though, and I don't know how many cars we'll have left if this gets ugly again because of those incident limits and the free repairs getting used up.
Top can't get itself grouped together, though. It looks like one car's in the wall. One car stuck in the wall. And it's John Bennett who has drove himself into the fence.
Got a couple of cars coming into the pits from the second pack.
Some of those involving the incident penalties. Frisch and Baldassare will have to still come in despite that clear for Frisch. So that means the pack is a little bit smaller in turn because of that. But the top line has completely dissipated. These drivers are still outside the fuel window. And if it goes green, would have to pit within 10 laps to go. Jeffrey now getting side drafted by Grantham. The top three stay single file up at the front as Yancey is the back car in the top group.
Hayden Wheeler leading underneath, and like you say, Yancey leading the pack up front in number hold on,
51.
Yeah, but that's David Grantham actually at the front of that pack, the number six car, yeah, who's led most of this race, but all of a sudden in turn 1 and 2 that the top line went nowhere there.
They gave it a try, but Stevens and Grantham back to the bottom. Yancey still wants to make the top work as the rhythm heads towards 50 laps to go.
So Wheeler is in the one in control right now. Again, that number 4 has never been too far away from the race lead.
Grantham wants to try it again. He's side drafting the 53 of Brent. It just doesn't look like they have the numbers unless they get a check here.
Yeah, the pack has... We've only got 11 of our lead lap cars in this pack. That the rest of them have kind of faded backward with damage. So, you know, considering you need a good group of cars to go up high, well, when there's only 11 cars in that lead pack, it's kind of hard to get the numbers that you need to go up high to pull this off.
The numbers on top now is up to 4. McGinn, in turn, fills the gap and immediately passes for 5th. And move on up. Keep in mind, yeah, Resch, we talked about involved in some of the trouble earlier. He's taken the faster pair. However, his fuel numbers, he's on his 20th lap as well. So he's also at risk of not being able to make it with the rest of the lead group. He needs a caution before 28 to go.
Well, yeah, but everyone's got a pit one time from here, as long as
he has to pit on his own.
Yeah, that's going to be the problem. Everyone's got stop to make, but like you say, if anyone's limited on how far they can go, they run the risk of pitting on their own and not having a drafting partner when they come out.
Top line resets here. 11 cars on the lead lapper in this group. And Grantham still wants to try and get himself back to the race lead for Chuck.
So nobody 1 lap down right now. We've either got drivers 2 laps down, 15th on back, or 14 drivers on the lead lap. But again, only 11 of those 14 are part of this lead pack racing for the win. Still some strategy left to pan out. But you know what? This is nice racing, what we're seeing here from these 2 lanes of cars. I know we've got what could look like a pack race going on, but everything's organized. I'm not seeing any desperate moves right now. So hopefully we'll be able to go green for a little while.
Tandem drafting now being attempted. Grantham this time hooking up with McGinn, but again, stalling out. Will Grantham elect to fill that hole in front of Yancey? No, so they will drop to the very tail end of the group here. Furthest out and back, as mentioned, they can drop is to 11th. And that's going to be the tough thing, too, as we talked about. If this ends up happening to the very end, how is this going to sort out for who you end up working with for the race win, because that really limits your options possibly, Samuel. Big check again top.
Yeah, we've still got a little ways to go until that happens. Who knows? The partner that you might be working with right now might not be part of a lead pack. Every time we've seen a round of green flag pit stops so far today, things have gotten spread out a little bit.
What's the saying? Your friends are where you find them? In this type of racing? That's been the case much of the night, it seems, where people have been looking for friends to try and test things out with. At the critical time of this race. Still three, still trapped up top. Yancey thought about going to the top, it looked like, for a second. Of notice, Yancey clips the apron there. Bernardi has lost the draft despite having a clean race car, running 176 miles per hour. Bennett has dropped back into with a grouping of lap cars. 13th is where he runs. And then you have Chris Gow, who is back running with his damage, who is about to get lapped again after 20 minutes of repairs. Give him credit. He wants to finish this race, albeit he is the last car running 22 laps down, as the next one up for grabs to fall to 23 down.
Yeah, well, I mean, he'll pick off a couple positions at this rate.
Thomas Frisch is that one driver, at the very least, that is likely to do that passing about on. 12 laps away from the mark. Well, it's about to go to 13 or so, as Wheeler is about to get in their draft. He's telling them to go to the left. That means he's going to the outside. Drivers are being told to side draft here with the lap traffic coming up to try and pull back the inside. Lap traffic trying to stay around those dotted marks on the high side near contact.
Yeah, it's I think that's the best way to do it, honestly. We've seen a lot of lapped cars try and let the leaders by on the high side throughout today, and hasn't always worked out. It's nice to just see a lap car stay up high there and the pack went by without too much difficulty.
It was a close call. It's worth noting. Nearly going down towards the fender of McGinn for a second. A big side draft. That time Grantham nearly to the back end of Stevens trying to get it, as he gets side drafted back from the side. Now he puts himself into the side draft of Stevens.
But again, this is still for about 6 on back. A top 5 continues to remain single file. Wheeler, Geohagen, Chilton, Jeffrey, and Kramer, your top 5.
And the interesting thing with Kramer was 40 laps ago, he was off adrift and not even close to contention here. Now he's in the top 5 with a decent shot here.
Yes, there's still a good handful of drivers out here with a decent shot. Now, honestly, I would include some drivers who aren't necessarily part of a lead pack right now.
Yeah, Bernardi, remember, all you need is a caution before you end up falling a lap down. Who knows what can happen? Meanwhile, Grantham has finally passed a car. He is already being side drafted a little bit, but getting pushed to get around for 5th position now. Just one at a time, it seems. Almost like that short track mentality, Samuel, where it takes 10 laps to get yourself a rhythm to be able to make a pass. They're in rhythm now to make a couple here.
Yeah, we're approaching the 40 laps left to go, 100 miles left to go, with Wheeler pacing the field up front. I really don't think we've seen a single lead change on track all day today, other than at the restarts.
That's a good point. We've only seen the one time on the top line, it seemed, for someone to be able to clear on by on track, and that was after a restart. The top again has died on off after gaining so much time, because Kramer, along with Stevens, again are able to floor it on the bottom around the yellow line. We're inside the fuel window to make it to the end. If it does not reach green-white checkers, mind you, Samuel, if we get a caution from this point, it would be tight if we go to GWC land if we do get another yellow after that.
Yeah, definitely. If a caution came out any time after now, everyone's going to be coming into top of their cars with fuel. Now, like you say, there might be some cars who will have to come in the not too distant future, and they may be coming in on their own. Again, even though the racing's a little dicey here at the back of this lead pack, I don't think it's bad enough where a caution is in the near-term future.
Grantham trying to side draft. Watch right there. He's been doing it very well on corner exit throughout this run. Right there, though. The 11 has been a solid side drafter as well. He has not wanted a single person, it seems, to make a pass to him on the outside. He has been the cork in the bottle for every driver alongside him today.
Again, coming down the back straight, going 190 miles an hour as this pack's no fuel saving or anything going on. Everyone knows what game they're playing, and it is, you know, that the drivers at the back are getting some experimentation in, some experience as they come around to a lap car who's keeping down low there. Oh, things getting dicey up front. One car getting called up high.
Oh, that was Chilton who got stuck, and that helped big time for Grantham to clear by. They used the lap car as a pick, and Grantham is now having momentum. He wants to jump up to 4th. Side draft from Chilton. Grantham now stuck side by side, waiting for the bump from behind again from McGinn as he side drafts the quarter panel.
They've got to be a little bit careful they don't let the top 3 break away. The top 2 are tandeming. Wheeler and Geohagen were tandeming down the back straight there to see if they could get a break while everyone from 3rd on back was racing side by side. It didn't work though.
Grantham again the side draft. McGinn avoids the side draft from Kramer. Not enough momentum though on the top line after all that. Stalling up. Big lap car grouping coming up.
Looks like they're all already pulling up high, though. That they're trying to let the leaders know that they're going to stay high and let the pack go down low. That being said, even if their intentions are communicated well, it doesn't mean the execution's always going to go well.
All it takes is one person to miss one syllable, misunderstand one thing, and you never know what's going to happen. The lap cars are staying to the wall, though. That's the thing. More bobbles have cost Grantham and company on the top. And once again, Kramer's up to 5th. About halfway through the run for these drivers, Resch has to pit within the next 10 laps to make it to the end on gas. We're now in the window if we get a caution. If drivers take a full tank, they won't have to necessarily worry about green-white checkers. Grantham, big time slow up. Grantham backing hard off the gas there, in fact, 185.
And leaders on the inside line approaching 190 as they come to the turn. They're not catching these lap cars in a hurry, but they are going to get them, well, within the next lap, definitely. Again, it's nice that the lap cars are letting the leaders know they can go down low. That won't be too difficult for the lead 4 or 5 cars. They're all running single file. They'll get by without too much difficulty, but this back half of the pack I'm a little bit more worried about.
Will that ring true? They're not hitting as close to the wall as some of the others so far. Bernardi weeble wobbling. Fagan weeble wobbling. Very tight off the corner. There it is. Contact Stevens up on his side. Caution is out.
Just a couple cars involved in that. Does Stevens still have his free repair left?
It's going to be critical as big checkups now for the caution flag, and I could see that coming. It looked like it was McGinn who came down. Almost looked like he got spooked there with some of the near contact in front. It's the exact same thing where there was contact to his high side. He instinctively cuts left when there's a car there.
Yeah, like you say, the lap cars didn't do the best job of keeping as high as they could have. Yes, but I mean, even in the professional world, we see this come up every now and then again, where a faster pack catches a slower pack, and it just takes one car to get out of line a little bit, leads to something like that. Fortunately, only a 2-car incident.
Seemed to be in reaction to the near contact Grantham had. Here's a look now from one of the onboards. Take a listen. Hard hits. And this driver did take a fast repair, remember, earlier in this final 100 laps. This is Resch, or was Resch, who is now without a hood.
Yeah, he'll be able to get that repaired. It'll take a little bit of time, but he's not out of a race.
That's the tough thing with the quick yellow format, though, too. There's not a lot of time to be able to work on. Even though you mentioned there is a decent time, it's about a minute or so you can work on repairs. It's not like where in the past you had 2-3 minutes worth of caution time to get it all fixed.
All right, Wheeler's leading them into the pits now. There might be some drivers who elect to take 4 tyres here. Honestly, I'd kind of be on that boat as we see a couple cars overshooting their pit stall. I always like 4 tyres on the final pit stop because now's when they matter. You know, now's when you when you're going to need that extra grip to make a moves.
Some have followed your advice. Some have said, I like taking no tires or 2 instead. Jeffrey Chilton, Gio Hagen, Wheeler Grantham the race off the lane. Kramer was one of the few, I believe, who took 4. Brent and Resch taking significant damage repairs. Here, John Bennett, the lucky dog. As we're under caution, everyone good to go to make it to the end on gas in theory, with 32 to go coming up. You're watching GSRC for coverage of sim racers for mental health, Daytona 500 action from the World Center of Racing. We'll be right back. Going back to green with 31 laps to go in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500. 12 drivers on the lead lap as we're back to racing for the World Center of Racing. Justin Brent, Samuel Ryman with you, along with the producer, Zach Johnson. A great start for Eric Jeffrey on the bottom, and now it gets interesting. Who's going to be able to win this 500-mile race? Now it's down to just the final 31 laps to decide it here, Samuel. The top line struggles on this restart, but the bottom line is rolling again.
Yeah, so two interesting philosophies under the pit stops. I normally like new tyres at the end of these events, but at the same time, we haven't really seen the leader get past during a long green flag run during this race at all today. So is Eric Jeffrey in the catbird seat? Can, he hold off even on these older tyres if he just keeps it stuck on that yellow line as he comes across the line, 30 laps to go?
McGinn now leads the top line for reference. Kramer right behind Grantham. Keep an eye, though, on that 6. He has indicated several times, as we've seen, that he's wanted to go. Of note, Resch has had to serve a penalty for incident points. He's already served said penalty. Bennett has the same, and now more drivers will have that. Caution is out. 4 drivers sandwiched together, and we're back under yellow with that one.
And the 27 just had that hard crash a moment ago. So, it's still going, but obviously not going to have the speed it did before.
It just looked like they all just bunched together on side draft upon side draft attempt. And they all just clumped together into the wall.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how this happened as well, because it looked like they were all running okay. The 27 got into the back of the 11. Now, why was that? The 11 was far behind the car in front of him. I don't think it was checking up for anything.
I think it'll be a better viewpoint for the outside here with this helicopter. Watch this down as the 21 comes down for the side draft. There is a push up a touch. Then right there. Same time as Stevens was going for the bump.
Yeah, but just bad timing on everything. No one really did anything wrong. Just all got a little bit too close.
Again, significantly damaged from that. Remember, had damage repair earlier from that last big one. Here's a look now from the back end. Right there.
I think there might be magnets in these cars. I'm not really sure what that was. 4 cars suddenly just decided they wanted to hit each other.
A lot to consider when it comes to that one. No more deck lid on the back end of that machine. And we're back under yellow. So that will knock out a few drivers in contention here. Few will get wave arounds who are several laps down. Bridges and Ricard get that distinction this time. Jeffrey, Geohagen, Grantham, the top 3. And Chilton, Stevens, Kramer, and Resch all have to come down for damage repairs. That leaves only 6 drivers with clean cars here.
Yeah, for now.
Well, you're not wrong. We might have no cars that are clean left except for betting the pace car driver.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. The pace truck's looking pretty. But, yeah, and obviously if tyre wear... tyre wear's never a concern at Daytona, but again, it's just nice to have cleaner tyres at the end of this race. But the more caution laps they run, the less that's going to be hurting Eric Jeffrey's tyres, so, yeah. Maybe this track position call isn't a bad one, especially considering the fact that there haven't really been a lot of our wrecks today that have affected the leaders. Most of them have pretty much been in the middle or at the back of the pack.
Of note, McGinn did not take damage repair under this caution. Check that he is now stopped on the track to tow it. After he tested his speed on the car by going full throttle and then realizing the engine was about to blow up at 159 miles per hour. Once again, welcome to Daytona, 27 to go.
Yeah, anticipate and hope that the truck pace lights are about to go off here. McGinn has officially retired from the race. Yep, there we go. Pace lights are off, so we will be restarting with 26 laps left to go.
So Kramer and McGinn with that incident are out of the contention and out of the running. McGinn has parked it for the evening as a result of that incident. Here's going to be the tough thing. Fagan has to let drivers go. Here's the problem. The drivers he has to let go as a result of the time of the caution and whatnot are 3/4 of the track behind this train. Resch and Kramer, or rather Resch and Stevens, they're going to have about half a lap to get up to the pack at full speed.
Yeah, and the nice thing is because it's a league race, sometimes the league admins can wave off a black flag for something like that. The other thing is they can always add a lap of caution if they do need to let the lap cars catch. But the other thing is Daytona's a big speedway, and there's plenty of time for them to still get sorted through turns 3 and 4.
And especially this year, I've noticed. With this year's running of official races, RTP was a big thing. I noticed it in. Same for this type of car, obviously. You have to get any type of service on the coming to 1 to green. You're going to have to hope you are near perfect in terms of your execution and what you need to do for a few seconds to catch up to this grouping here. Looks like everyone's been able to catch up, though, barely this time. As the pace truck drops off, 26 to go. Green flag is back out. We're back to racing.
No, Eric Jeffrey doesn't get the same kind of jump he did last time. As a matter of fact, he does not lead the field over the start-finish line. Those on us go to the 4 car on the outside, and it looks like Hunter is going to get the lead on the restart. No, he's not quite clear of the inside, so we're going to have a drag race here, but I don't think the outside has the numbers.
Grantham going for the tandem draft, though. Jeffrey wants the push. Will Jeffrey get it strong enough? A big check on the bottom as the 4 is fully clear. Joe Hagan takes the race lead back. Brent is also up there, but now he's on his own.
Feeling so Les Miserables on his own on the top side, and now fading back very quickly indeed. Already out of the top 5, probably going to be out of the top 10.
Well, at least out of the top 9, because Resch already has lost the draft with his damage. Keep in mind, Bernardi is also in the draft with Stevens to tail off this grouping with 25 to go, coming to 24. A pass by Kramer, who's also back onto the racetrack, 4 minutes behind the race leaders in terms of interval, 2 laps down plus already. Still, though, chess match is getting all set here, Samuel. The pieces trying to sort themselves out.
Yeah, well, they all got single file. I'm going to guess they got tired of having a couple of quick cautions there. But the problem if you're a driver at the back of a pack is we haven't really seen the outside line come in after a restart. So these drivers are going to have to try something different or really execute this well if they want to work their way up from the back of a pack, go up high and make a pass for the lead. They're going to have to do something that we haven't seen all race long so far.
And that's going to be the risk too. Who wants to be the one who takes the risk, Samuel? Because if you take the risk and lose 6 spots, it's going to scare some people off.
Yeah, well, the good news for those drivers who may be a bit anxious about wanting to make a move is that they don't have to do it right now. They've still got, obviously, a decent amount of time left to go in this race, so I wouldn't be surprised. Not good news from the viewing perspective, but that's just how it is sometimes. If for our next 10 laps or so, we continue to see the single file running, and Eric Jeffrey actually blinking a little bit there in second position. But I think when we do get down to the final 10-15 laps, that's when things might start to get a bit dicey at the tail end of this train.
Of note, we mentioned Stevens was holding on to the draft. He lost 13 seconds in the span of about 5 laps. He is now in 10th, by the way. Resch is also all the way back in 9th, 12 seconds back in the midst of a pack of lap cars. So there is a chance that may be a caution trigger. One driver's trying the outside. Two drivers are trying the outside. Will that make anyone else want to try the outside? No. Everyone else staying to the bottom in front of them.
You mentioned about how two of our most recent cautions have featured incidents when the leaders have came up to lap a pack of slower cars. Well, that pack of slower cars is about 15 seconds behind this lead pack and losing about 3 seconds a lap. So they'll probably catch them in about 10 more laps. So, yeah, I think, oh boy, they're actually making some progress up high here.
If you're a strategist, you're absolutely getting the calculators out, because 47-second lap times for the race leaders, you do 3 times 10. That's in 3 seconds lost per lap. You are right. They'd reach them about that 10 in about 10 laps at about 10 to go, if not 11 to go, at the rate they're going. The tandem not working. A big checkup. Bennett elects to take the checkup into the grass. Bennett takes himself into the infield and to the apron.
Now, see, Bennett could have kept his foot in it a little bit more there, because there was no one behind that lead pack. He probably didn't know that. Has he been in to retire? I'm surprised he hasn't gone back out on the racetrack yet.
I don't understand why he took a hard left into the grass on that checkup. He just rubbed somebody, and now he's going to the pit lane. He does have a black flag in sim, mind you, so it looks like he has elected to pull it off out of contention from the leaders.
Was that his 15th instant point?
Again, no black flag in sim to indicate that.
No, I'm not really sure what that's all about then, but maybe he's getting some new tyres. If he does get back out there on track, he'll try and get a wave around or something.
He is out of the car.
No, it's retiring. Okay, just didn't deselect tyres when he came into the pits yet. So, less than 20 laps to go. Like we just said, Justin, in about 10 laps time, this lead pack will catch a pack of lap cars. And at about that time, if they can get by that pack cleanly, I think that's when we'll start to see the drivers at the back really get a run going on the outside.
I think so. Remember the last time they reached traffic who started to cause a bit of some checkups? That caused some drivers to be used as picks in turn. See if that comes into play and opens up the Pandora's box of move attempts. The race win. Bennett is officially out of the race. He has pulled his car into the garage area for the rest of the evening. 18 to go. That time by the stripe. Right now, 8 drivers have a chance to win it.
The second pack has actually grown in size a little bit, and they're all beat up a bit, but they're all running single file in a nice little train and getting a bit of speed going. They're only 1 second a lap slower than 2 seconds a lap slower than the leaders, so maybe they won't become a factor. But my question is, why are they letting a car that doesn't have a front clip lead this pack around?
Do you think they know that the driver has no front clip at the rate they're going at this rate? They're going still 182 miles per hour, which is normal pace at fuel save.
Yeah, but I guess when you look at it, none of the other cars behind him look any better.
Error has a bit of a cleaner car. Bridge is fairly crunched in, though. A lot of destroyed race cars here, and hey, we've seen drivers in majors competition have no front clip run to the top 10 before they also crashed. So there's that. Leaders have also lapped 2 more cars. They still stick to the yellow line. And this waiting game is going to get intriguing in terms of who does not want to wait at what points. 16 to go. One driver still wants to go, and Brent No one is biting, though. Brent seems to be the only person in the whole field who wants to pass right now.
Yeah, it's nice for everyone in front of him to know that when they do opt to make a move up high, that Brent will probably go with them. We're coming to 15 laps to go. When there's only 8 cars in the pack, I just think that's a bit too early. You know, you can wait until probably even the last 10 laps. But it's all going to happen rather quickly. We're probably only about 10 minutes away from the end of this race if it stays green.
I'm keeping my eye, though, on Grantham still, as being one of those drivers who pulls out here, Samuel, for the race lead in the late stages. He and Wheeler have hooked up a couple times and done well. I know Grantham's been trying to figure out who's going to be a good pusher, who's going to help me in what spots. And he's kind of running around the people who he's preferred to work with, it seems, today. Or who have helped him gain the most ground, rather.
Yeah, I still like whoever's in position number 1, though. It's been difficult to pass any other time other than the restart. And Hunter Dreg, I can never pronounce his last name. Hunter has done a great job at commanding the field for a lot of today's race. He's been up front for a lot of it. And, you know, all he needs to do is stay down low, run that yellow line, and make the other guys do the hard work.
Under 15 to go now, 14 laps to go on the board. And to triple check in terms of the math calculator, it's now an average of 1.8 seconds per lap. If you average that to 14 laps to go, that puts them at 25 seconds lost. Right now, some of the drivers in that pack are 28 seconds behind. You do the math in your head, that's about 43 seconds to the race leader. Give or take.
Yeah.
I might be off.
No, using your numbers there, yeah, I think you're right. They will end up having to lap them. Of course, the difference could be if this pack starts racing each other, that could slow this pack down.
Yeah, to triple check, that is 30 times, or 30 plus 25, 55. Commentary math is fun. I do have a calculator, by the way. So, there's that. And they will have to deal with them with under 5 to go. Oh boy, is what I can say. Possibly if that becomes a factor is Brent again wants to make some passes. Brent again has no friends wanting to make passes as the rest of the main leaders stay to the bottom.
Now, these guys at the back have to be careful they don't lose that lead pack. I think Brent, your competitors get the message. You'll go with them when you go up high. It's too early. 12 laps left to go with 8 cars, and you know, even 8th place is only 7/10 of a second back of a lead. Yeah, you can do it in less than 10 laps if you have a help. We know Brent will go up high. Who else will go up high? We'll find out within the next 10 minutes.
And I'm also keeping my eye too, Samuel, on those who may indicate. Sometimes there's an indication, like right there, possibly you might get someone like a Weaver who, if it's an intended bobble to the right, that's for some taken as a sign of they want to go. Chilton opens the bottom and lets the 7 go. Chilton is now stuck on the top, and now Brent, out of circumstances, found some help.
Bernardi is willing to go up high if he sees they have momentum. I've got to confess, I didn't actually realise that Fagan was still in this pack there for a moment. He still has a shot at winning this.
I'm surprised he still has a shot, absolutely, with all the incidents he's been. I'm surprised he was able to keep the lead lap after crashing into the pit lane at one point. And he's side by side for 5th. Chilton builds up the run, 10 to go.
Yeah, alright, so here we go. We are in the final 10 laps and we do have some momentum up high. I am very surprised that Bernardi didn't try and go with those 2.
Seen there, though, the 7 the past couple laps has been clipping the apron. A little bit of a close one. Wheeler slipped up the track near contact for a moment.
The number 4 race leader Hunter just using the theory, which is quite a logical theory of, hey, it hasn't worked for the high line at all so far today. Why would it work now? And I think he's going to stay married to the low lane until he finds a reason to do otherwise. That's a lot of momentum though. There's only 2 cars up high and they're working quite well together.
Who's going to join them to become a third, though, in the closing stages? 9 to go at that stripe. Top line losing momentum again. Wheeler gets clear of them.
Now, because the pack is slower, there's less cars than it's been all day long, obviously. There's less momentum down low because there's less cars in the train on the low side than there's been all day.
Here we go. Wheeler wants to go. Coming to 8 to go this time. He goes side by side for third. Fagan gets ditched this time by Yancey. Yancey tries to jump the line on the bottom. Near 3-1 as Chilton tries to dive. Here comes Jeffrey. He wants the race lead for the first time since earlier today. He's now to the point entering turn 1.
I think this is a foul. Oh, Jeffrey, he wasn't really clear there, I didn't think, but he pulled it off. So this was really the first time today I think we'd seen more cars in the high side than on the low side, and that's the result. It means that the leader on the low side is not immune to being passed, and now Jeffrey, he got the lead up high. Now he's about to lose the lead again, because here comes Hayden Wheeler. He was 4th at the stripe. He is first heading into turn 3.
4x4 to determine the race winner here, coming down to 7 to go. The 86 has backed away from the pack. Wheeler gets the run off the corner. Hayden Wheeler to the race lead. This is lead lap number 21 for the 92. Fagan trying to bump him clear again. He doesn't take it though.
Yeah, I was mentioning a while ago, why doesn't Bernardi go up high? Well, that explains it. He's actually not a part on the lead lap and missed it at some point.
Oh, big bubble. Big check up as Fagan not able to stick it on the top. Chilton checks up. Yancey comes up to help.
Yeah, that's killed their momentum though. Top 3 break away a little bit. But yeah. I think... I think the days of us losing cars from this pack are gone. I think these 8 are going to be glued to each other until the line.
6 to go. Back single file. Wheeler's been shuffled all the way back to the tail end. An 8th huge checkup as Chilton contact with Fagan. Fagan makes contact with Wheeler. Wheeler slides around with Fagan. A save by the 92. No caution, we stay green. 6 cars now fight for the win.
Lap traffic is only just heading into turn 3. Yeah, as you mentioned, the lead pack's broken up a little bit.
Wheeler significant damage. Side by side behind for 5th. Top 4 single file. First of those lap cars coming up to high 5 from Barney. 5 laps to go in the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500. To the top of the wall goes Sean Stevens. Here comes the run again from Chilton.
Yeah, Goff decides to go up high eventually. It looked like he was going to stay low there for a while, but no, he goes up high. They all go by him. But after this is when the lap traffic gets interesting. I think the 5-car pack is not too far up the road.
They're only about a few hundred meters away or so. You see some of those cars we mentioned, Wheeler and Fagan, are out of contention. They've lost 5 seconds from that contact in turn 1. Chilton wants to go. Can't get anything to work yet. Brent losing ground after that move from Chilton. Chilton tries to side draft on his own with 4 to go.
Depending on when this lead pack catches the lapped cars, this could actually help Jeffrey a bit if he gets a toe off of them.
Especially if they're side by side. Lap cars are communicating with the race leaders on where they want to go.
Pit road.
Top line seems to be the indication. It's been that indication all day. There are 5 cars who are running the wall now. Coming to 3 to go.
I wonder if a sleep pack of 6 cars is kind of a gentleman's agreement here. Hey, let's all stay single file until we get by the slap pack just to make sure there's no car. No gentleman's agreement. We're almost seeing a battle. So there's the lap cars. They're running 49s. The leader's running 47s, and just a couple seconds down the road now. This should happen this lap. I don't know what's going to happen this lap, but it will happen this lap.
Brent wants to still go. He's now running the wall, in fact, trying to get the draft. Now they snake their way off turn 2. One car hits the wall. That was Kramer. They passed by the first 2 easy. Now it's down to the final 3 on that wall. 1 lap car passed, 2 lap car passed, 3 lap cars passed. Now it's down to fight for 2 laps to go for the 6 drivers to fight for the win.
Yeah, but now the race begins. We've got 6 drivers racing for the win. The lap cars are going to race behind. Hopefully, they're not the ones who bring out an incident and any caution. Of course, if 2 laps to go now, if they make it around one more time and get the white flag, that means we will be racing to the checkered.
Trying to poke around again. Side trap from Chilton on the back end of Yancey. He gets some help from Brent. Jeffrey sticking to the yellow line. Does he still get the help? Yes. Tandem draft now at the front. 2 drivers on the top coming to the white flag this time around.
I don't get that from Hunter. He's tandeming him, but if they push each other too far out in front, it means they're both going to be sitting ducks.
If they take the white flag, the race is official. Barney has the white flag in hand. Final lap for the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500. Jeffrey leads with 2.5 miles to go.
The problem is, at some point, Hunter's got to back off because he can't just keep tandeming Eric, and he's got to get around. He's got to make a move of his own, and here he does it. He's doing it down the back straight. Eric Jeffrey's going backwards.
Eric Jeffrey gets ditched. Joe Hagan now to the race lead. 3-car bump draft. The 4 blocks to the old line. Grantham sticks to the back bumper. Can Yancey do anything from 3rd? Grantham with the shove. Grantham shoves him again. Joe Hagan with the block. Here comes Yancey. Yancey to the apron. Joe Hagan wins the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500.
Very good block in there by Hunter J. Hagan. I know in real life you're not allowed to go below the apron on the run down to the checkered flag, but here on iRacing, that's fair game. Hunter used the whole track to block. He didn't do anything excessive or over the top. He was just making sure he was positioning his car right where he needed to be to get to the checkered flag first, and he was able to do that by 0.5 of a second over Curtis Yancey. Well driven by him, and a well-deserved victory. He was really the one who I think featured most prominently up front throughout most of the race.
He ends the night with 46 laps led. Grantham the most laps led with 83, but 70 of those came from the start. Only 1 driver crossed the incident limit, and that was Barry Kramer. But you see the celebration for the 4. Catches Jeffrey off guard off turn 2. Runs away to the race victory over Yancey. Difference about 5/100ths of a second.
And kudos to David Grantham in 3rd place at the line, the only finisher with 0 incident points.
Shows the talent that Grantham has behind the wheel at this type of racetrack. But a very big-time win for the number 4. The celebration is on. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching GSRC, Sim Racers for Mental Health, Daytona 500.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway for post-race coverage for the Sim Racers for Mental Health Daytona 500 that ended in thrilling fashion. In the end, it came down to 6 drivers to determine a race winner. Only one could take the victory, and that was Hunter Geohagen, who wins by 0.055 seconds. Curtis Yancey comes home in second. David Grantham, the pole sitter, finishes in third. Tony Brent able to come up to fourth at the end. Eric Jeffrey got Freight Train down the backstretch to finish in fifth. Chilton finished in sixth. Wheeler and Fagan tried to get the top line, working up points throughout the night. They collided in the closing stages. They finished 7th and 8th, the last drivers in the lead lap. 2 drivers finished 1 lap down. Those drivers, Philip Resch and Drew Bernardi, rounding out your top 10, Samuel.
Sean Stevens had a quiet first half of the race, but was involved in 2 major incidents later on, finishes 11th. David Baldassare comes home in 12th place, 4 laps down ahead of Wayne Bridges, Barry Kramer and Scott Rickard rounding out the top 15. Now we get to the cars that we lost a long time ago. John Burnett, Chris Goff, Connor Mugen, who was leading temporarily earlier on, Thomas Friesch and Evan Lambert. On our final page we have our second place starter Thomas Stewart, Christopher Standwich and William Kruska.
Let's look top to bottom at the running order for tonight's action here at iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway. But Hunter Geohagen comes away with the victory today. Hunter, you've won tonight's 500-mile race at Daytona International Speedway. How does it feel to win in Sim Racers for Mental Health competition?
It feels amazing. It was like such a great race there at the end. Like it could have went to honestly anyone. It was just a blast. We all kept it clean. And I really enjoy running with this group.
Talk us through those final laps, because it was an intriguing race. Much different tone compared to some of the other runs of the next-gen car. It seemed very tame for parts of the race outside of the big ones until the final few laps when the intensity level cranked up to 11.5.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely a shout out to these guys for keeping it tame. Usually these races go, 3 wide and it's a cluster. But here we're all pretty smart. Got single file. We knew it was a long race. Just stay in line, pit together, and let's all get there at the end. And then once we get there, we'll make our moves.
And of course, it seemed like a lot of chemistry was huge tonight, because you and David Grantham seemed to work very well at times. How would you describe that feel on the racetrack in turn? You mentioned the feeling of how the group was able to keep it clean. How was it trying to make sure you kept that chemistry going?
Yeah, for sure. Early on, I knew I was going to have a partner there with David in 27, and it was a matter of later in the race, we got split up then. It was like, are we still working together? Luckily, towards the end, I found my way back there with David, and we were able to work together, get around, and get P1 and 2.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
I want to shout out to our spotter, Mizuki Creates, over on Twitch, and then, of course, our sponsor, mine over on Spotify.
Congratulations on the victory tonight.
Thank you.
Once again, that is Hunter Geohagen coming away with the victory tonight. Second spot went to one Curtis Yancey, and he was someone that was able to slice and dice his way to that spot. Samuel, he's with you.
Yeah, Curtis, commiserations. It was a second place finish, but congrats on making it to the finish. How are you feeling?
I feel ecstatic after that. I was coming in here, didn't really know where I was going to finish, didn't really have anybody to work with me early in the race, just wanted to ride, be there at the end with a chance to win. Almost wasn't happening, but we came through, had a chance to win at the finish, and that's all that I could really ask for.
It seemed that at least until the final stint there, the only changes we were seeing for the lead all race long were on the restarts. You were one of the drivers, I think, quite often was trying to get up there, up on the high line and try and make passes happen. How difficult is that to do in this car?
It's pretty difficult unless you have help or you're side drafting the people on your inside. If you get to their right rear, you can just stick there and you'll just pull them back. But if there's seven in a line on the bottom and you have no help, you're just not going to go anywhere. Honestly, I kind of like that about this car. You need to have some help. You have people that work with you. That's the only way you're going to be moving forward. And luckily, towards the end, we had some people to help us, and we came home with second.
Yeah, definitely came out home with a decent finish, and you're racing for a good cause out here during this series, so we appreciate that. How are you feeling going forward, doing more races with these guys? Because I know you have special events each month.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to them, no matter what they are, running NASCARs, road courses, anything. I think what they do for mental health with the sim racers, it's fantastic.
All right, and anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go and celebrate?
Just like to thank everybody that tuned in, everybody that raced with me, everybody watching at home, really.
All right, well, we appreciate you coming here to talk to us, and thanks for putting on the great show today, and congrats on a solid second place finish there.
Yep, thank you for having me.
That's Curtis Yancey coming home in second. Third spot tonight went to a familiar name in special event action. David Grantham joining Sim Race for Mental Health competition and had a strong chance in the Sim Race for Mental Health Daytona 500 to win it at some points. David, long time no speak. Your thoughts on finishing third tonight?
Well, first of all, Justin, it's great to finally be talking with you again, and a very happy belated New Year to you, and one of the best weeks in motorsports this week, right? But man, I knew coming down to it, it was probably going to be the four and we just worked so well all race along with the 27, the 21, and when they were hooked up on the bottom, it was just so hard to get anything going on the top. But once we got the 23, obviously moved past the 23, we got really well connected, and then the 51 got connected to me, I think, around the same time, going into 3, and I just wasn't lifted off the 4. I wasn't going to try to turn them, but, that's kind of how these things have gone a little bit over the last week. And I thought we were coming together again, coming off of 4, and I didn't want to get turned. So I bailed to the outside, thinking that I might have been able to get a side draft if I timed everything right. And I got ditched by the 51, and so kudos to him for making the great move to the inside, and everybody for really just keeping it clean on the last lap there. Who knows if they got together and spun towards the inside, I still might have won it. But I'll take my Open 500 on Tuesday, and it just goes to show just how hard these things are to win, and there's just not enough that I could say about that. I've won a couple of 500s, and golly, they are so hard to win.
So what drew your attention to running in Sim Racers Mental Health Daytona 500 competition in tournament?
Well, my brother-in-law was in this Scooter Fagan in the 7s, and it was it's actually the first opportunity we've gotten together to actually run in anything in iRacing, and I just kind of gave him the heads up about this, and I've been wanting to run something in this league for a while now. Because iRacing has really helped my mental health just a ton, just by having to really, really just focus on what you're doing at hand, or, really not making a good name for yourself. So, really just glad that we got the opportunity to work together. He overcame a ton in the 7, and he did really well, and, just really happy that, we had a really clean finish. Because it really easily could have gotten messy. If one bad block or one ill-advised move, and instead, it was just a drag race to the checkers.
So on that note, then, will we see you again next time Sim Racers Mental Health competition comes into play next month for the self-injury awareness 150?
Yeah, I just need to look at my schedule, and we'll see what happens. So,
anyone I want to give a shout out to or a thank you to, especially with Chuck on the side of the car tonight again?
Yeah, well, Justin, you know the refrain here from covering the iRacing Global Racing Series. So obviously I have to first thank my Smoking Off White Morgan for letting me do 3 500s this week. I'm exhausted. She's exhausted from dealing with the 2 kids. Chuck is always just, he's actually laying right next to me right now, tired of me staying up this late, this many days in a row. I practiced a ton with my in-state club, Empire State Motorsports, and man, the guys at Firelight Esports just brought me on, and we practiced so well last week for the Podium 500, and we've just been really just feeding off each other lately. So big kudos to everybody over there, and hope they have, as charmed of a speed week as I've had this week. It's just been unbelievable how fortunate I've been to have the success I've had this week.
Congratulations once again on the podium, David.
Thank you. Take care, Justin.
You too. That's David Grantham coming home third tonight. I'd like to thank him, Curtis Yancey, and Hunter Giahagan for coming home in the podium, or rather, taking the time to speak with us from said podium here in this one. Samuel, an intriguing night once more. A very tame race, as mentioned by some of the drivers, giving some high regard for that calm nature. But in the end, Hunter was the one who timed up the run just right to hold on to the checkered.
Yeah, I definitely think there were a few silly errors out there that brought out our caution flags, but you'll have that in motor racing, I don't think it's very rare that you see a race at Daytona that doesn't have a caution. But it was nice that, once the field had petered down a little bit and we had our finalists for the final showdown there, we got a nice green flag shootout to the checkered flag there. Seems like everyone, or at least the drivers who finished high at the end there, who came to talk to us, all had a great time. We're racing for a great cause, and I think we had a very deserved winner too.
An intriguing night here at Daytona in turn, and again, a learning experience for some, but we'd like to thank you for tuning in to tonight's action here from the World Center of Racing. We'd also like to give a thanks to the companies who provide the software and hardware for our broadcast, as listed up on your screen. Additional thanks go to Jude Lawn, who provides her wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of our great work. Thanks to tonight's team once again in Samuel Zach, Lama Dougie, as well as a shout out to tonight's Shadower and Derek Watson. You can find out more information about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on screen. Also, be sure to check out the merchandise store at gsrc.storeandvy.com, as we keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As seen on screen, we have plenty of upcoming races for other series to keep an eye on, including more Daytona on Sunday. So be sure to check those out and mark them down your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.